Welcome to Warcraft Reloaded, a podcast brought to you by Mash Those Buttons, covering World of Warcraft Classic, TBC, and its community. I am Bobby, also known as Blazin' Bob, and today we're joined by Mel, aka Melorina. How you doing?
I'm wonderful.
Awesome. And we're joined by Ryan, aka Cognitive Pit.
An
Hello,
afterthought.
Bob. I'm doing great. And then when we talk about what we've been doing in WoW lately, I'll explain why I'm doing horribly.
Yeah, well, and we're also joined for a second time by very special guest, WillE. How you doing, sir?
Hello again. Thanks for having me on. I look like I'm in the Twilight Zone or something, but I'm normal enough, I promise. And yeah, thanks for having me back again.
Oh, anytime. We love having you on. So, all right. So this episode is gonna mainly be about some changes. We're gonna go through housekeeping, then a little bit of what we've been doing lately in WoW. We won't go into Naxx much this episode. We'll just tell you one little update that was pretty cool this week, and then we're going to talk some changes, and we're going to talk a lot about that. So, first off, in housekeeping, I wanted to give the guild Triumvirate a congratulations on their first KT kill last night on Friday night. So was well done, and they were super excited. They tweeted us a picture of their kill, and so well done,
Aw.
guys.
Good job, guys. That's awesome.
Whoop whoop. Feels good, doesn't it?
And then also, we want to remind everybody that we're doing the YouTube giveaway, a 4-week contest where if you like, subscribe, and leave a comment on each video for the 4 weeks, that will get you a total of 4 entries into the $25 gift card giveaway. And that's at youtube.com/mashthosebuttons. So get in there. Tell us what you thought of the show. Tell us whatever you want to tell us. And who knows, maybe if it's good, we might even talk about it on the show too. All right, that should be it for housekeeping. We did get a new but old review. This came in on the 1st of January from New Zealand. So take
Yeah.
it away, Yip.
So we got a great review. Great show. I've been listening to the show for several episodes now, and I've really enjoyed each and every one. Have now gone back and listened to them all. All the best for the future, guys. Look forward to listening during TBC 2 from a New Zealand dad gamer. Thank you so much for your review. Very much appreciated. And we're looking forward to making them in TBC also.
For
Can't
sure.
wait for TBC.
Me either. All right, so let's just move into it. Who wants to go first on what have you been doing lately in WoW?
I'll go last.
All right, let's let
Uh,
our guest go first, Willie.
I mean, not a lot, if I'm completely honest. I've actually trying to take a bit of a break in prep for TBC, and
Yeah.
just do some other things. I do, I play a lot of the game and I record it and I edit it and all kinds of stuff. And I've hit most of the goals that I set out to achieve with the game. Really, majority of that was getting everything to level 60, clearing all the
Which
raid
is
content.
nuts.
I did want to, I did want to get all the reputations to exalted as well, but man, I just can't justify the time at the moment. It takes so long.
It does.
Yeah, so I think I can revisit that one later on down the line. But other than that, I've been raiding Naxx, really. I'm nearly got pretty much everything I want. I would like the remainder of tier 3. I think I have about 3 pieces left to get.
Nice. That's how
Um,
much Mel's got left to give too.
yeah. Other than that, it's just I've got Dark Moon Fair run tomorrow. Should be pretty good. See if we can get sub 130. And yeah, that's it for me at the moment. Just a full on raid log.
Nice,
Mhm.
nice. What about you, Mel?
I feel like we always do things together, so what I do is usually less interesting. But I don't know, we've been doing jump runs, and I dropped herbalism on my priest and picked up enchanting, 300 enchanting in a couple days. And I have a
Oh,
bunch of shards from our jump runs, so that's nice.
What
I
happens to
can.
all the dream foil and the jump runs?
It's very sad. They go much quicker though because
They
I'm not
do.
as distracted. And it was really hard for me to like not try to get the herbs that were like just a little inconvenient to get, but it always resulted in at least once every couple pulling some random large mob. Last night I pulled something and then I went to loot the boss, the first boss, the water boss,
Hmm.
and it was like way at the end of like next to one of those other mobs, and I went to loot it and all these little imps come running at me and I'm like, ah! And so I'm running away to try to get to a safe spot. Bob's trying to like tell me where to go very horribly on and so I'm like running around like a madman and then I pull a bunch of like little flower things and then a bunch of the pads
It was
and I'm just like, no.
so we basically jumped into to Discord with a bunch of guildies, and we were having great jump runs, but then we got super distracted. And so on the water boss, I died at like 25% boss health, and Mel's on her holy priest, and I on the fly gave her Willie's instructions on how to kite the boss to jump out on and off the ledge.
Oh yeah, that yeah.
And she did that, but then she pulled the mobs after she killed them. So it was really impressive to start.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
can
narrow
barely
it down
tell that
to
it's
that, yeah.
phase 6 and you've been doing jump runs for over a year.
oh my gosh, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and then for me, just the other stuff has just been doing a lot of prep across the board. I've been doing different things. BGs, tried to collect at least 20 of each of the marks so that I could hold those for pre-patch to buy the nice PvP gear, and then a whole lot of research and just and then Naxx, of course. So, but Yip's been having a lot of fun as of late. I've been playing a ton, but every time I get on, Yip's on.
Yeah, I've been grinding like crazy. I've been grinding, work has been suffering so that I can kill mobs on my paladin. The nice thing with grinding on a paladin is that you put on your seal, you right click, and then you can walk away for about 30 seconds and then come back and the mob's dead and you heal yourself and you just do it again and again. So it's pretty reasonable. I've been driving myself a little crazy though, because I've come to this horrible conclusion while trying to create some new videos that have to do with like loot from 1,000 of a particular mob. Wowhead drop rates are unbelievably incorrect. they are so incorrect. I would
So
say that they're
incorrect.
about double on every mob that I've killed so far. Wowhead drop rates are about double what they actually are, and that has been a huge bummer for me. Spoiler: I killed 1,000 Naga and Ashara trying to get golden pearls, and I didn't get a single golden pearl the entire time when I should have gotten like 3 to 4. On Wowhead, the drop rate says it's 74% for a big mouth clam. It's like 30 to 40%. I killed 1,000 and I got less than 300, I think, or maybe I got like 330 out of 1,000, I think. So those drop rates,
But
I
if
don't know
you
what's up
go
with that.
back and do it 1,000 more times, what if it
So
gets better and then
something
average?
Something with a 74% frequency, 1,000 kills is enough to know, like, it's too big. That is too large of a sample size at that drop rate. I wasn't sure with the satyrs, though. I was killing for Fellcloth and demonic runes, and the drop rates were about half, and like 1,000 didn't quite. I was like, I don't know, maybe I just got unlucky. But somebody posted a comment either on YouTube or Reddit, and they gave me their data of 2,500 kills, and it lined up perfectly with my drop percentages. And that's just, I think they're just super wrong. And it's really unfortunate because I just wonder, have I been using these drop rates for other things this entire time?
Well,
And they've all just
Where do
been
they come
wrong.
from?
That's exactly. I've always wondered. I thought there was maybe a client you had to have download or an add-on.
Yeah, so there's
they
like an add-on
work with.
client. There's an add-on client called like Wowhead Looter, and I think that's where they get their data from. But I also think that they imported all their old data from like actual vanilla and TBC and stuff, because you see all the comments in there. So I think a lot of that initial data is coming from that, and maybe that's where the big discrepancy is. I noticed that there's a lot of items missing. Like I think I was killing harpies in the barrens, and they drop like wool maybe, and then wool is just missing from the Wowhead drops. So if they were recording actual drops, it doesn't make any sense that like a super common cloth drop just isn't on the Wowhead list. So I'm confused, I'm baffled, but I'm ready to expose more Wowhead drop rates.
Expose
But
Wowhead.
If anybody
There you
from
go.
Wowhead is listening, go ahead and reach out to us. We're happy to help talk about your client or whatever needs to be used to help get your data more in line. But you were going to say, Willie, sorry.
Yeah, I was saying with the golden pearls, I think they're about 3%. Just the correct number. I think throughout leveling all my characters, I've got about 3 or 4 the whole time. So
So you would so
it's why they're a
even at
decent price.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, 330 clams. I thought I was gonna get one, but
Well, from the big mouth clam, that is.
yeah, big mouth clam. Yeah, that's what
yeah.
I was.
That's just unlucky, I guess. That's the way it goes. A low drop rate.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, I think
can
getting
you do?
zero was very unlucky. I'm much more upset about the big mouth clam drop rate being like half of what it was supposed to be. The pearls, that's easily just like, okay, I mean, the drop rate's low. It just might, I just might not get it. I could have gotten 4, who knows? But
Mel and I
that has
killed
been a ride.
for about 3 hours one time when she was first trying to get her, I think it was her healing power enchant on her mace, or maybe it was before that when it was just spell power. But we were trying to get golden pearls, and for 3 hours we killed at that island in Feralus below the town, and we got nothing. No pearls whatsoever. So I don't know. But also, a quick update on Naxx, if you want to just tell people what we did in Naxx real quick.
Well, it's not a sub hour 30 minutes, but we finally did all of Naxx with DMF in a single night, which was pretty exciting. We ended up, I think, 20 minutes over time. So we did it in about 3 hours, 20 minutes. But with a really sloppy rebuff period, we took our sweet time getting a rebuff. So I think we're gonna try again this upcoming Tuesday because we can bring in DMF again. Most people will just grab it and log out. And I hope to hit that 3 hour mark. But it was super exciting to do Naxx all in one night. That's we've come a long way, and it's kind of cool every new benchmark that we hit, and that one was especially exciting. And it wasn't that easy. You have to stay focused the whole time, which our guild is like, we have like 2 hours of focus at most. So I was super worried about how like 4 horsemen and KT were going to go at the end of the night instead of the beginning. But we were able to get everything down super cleanly. We didn't wipe it all, did we, in there? Maybe.
We didn't wipe. We didn't wipe. No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
no.
I don't think so.
No, there was just a lot of the later trash packs. There was a lot of like 1 to 3 deaths on just random things that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, we
So
were
easy to
losing a
die.
warrior about every pull when we were walking up
right
to
before we were
Maxida.
buffed.
Yeah.
Or right before we rebuffed. Yeah. And that's just the name of the game. Like our guild just gets ADD after 2 hours, and you know.
I do wonder, like, if without DMF especially, I think I kind of like doing like 12 bosses on Tuesday, and then you just bust through the other 3 really easily on Thursday with fresh buffs. And you don't need to like go rebuff and worry about it. So we'll see what we do continuing, but I'm super happy with how we've been doing. We've been crushing Naxx lately, which has been awesome. We've had a full 40 every week, which has been every raid night, which has been really exciting also. Even on Thursday when we didn't have Naxx, we had a full 40. We actually had someone sit out because we had an extra person. So that was pretty exciting. I think everyone's really hyped up for TBC and playing a lot. There have been a ton of people just on in our guild at all hours of the day.
It's super
we've
cool.
gone from insane raid log guild where we have a couple of like PvPers who are on, and now just people are on. People are leveling alts. People are getting gold for TBC.
Right.
People are trying to gear up their level 60s that they haven't been doing anything with. It's been honestly like a real blast in our guild lately to be playing Classic WoW.
Definitely. And Willie, how do you guys do Naxx? Do you do it in one night? Like, how many raid nights do you have for how long each night?
So as of recently, we've done our last clears of AQ14 BWL. If you want to do them now, you go pug. We've just got Naxx, and recently, without DMF, it's still been around 2 hours, sub 2 hours, and with I think our last run was about 1:30, and hopefully we'll get sub 1:30 again tomorrow. But we do have it's a pretty keen guild. It's not like mega super try hard, but it's sort of environment where everyone wants to do well, perform well. Everyone picks up all the buffs and so on and so forth. It's pretty not like a completely optimized raid comp, but it's there's a lot of warriors, put it like that. And warriors warriors carry real hard. But no, other than that, we go out, as soon as we go in, we've got everything set out and planned in advance. Who's going to tank what, where, how we're going to approach different trash pulls. It's yeah, it's just a different way to approach it, I guess. But we go in, get the job done, get loot, I guess. That's the kind of environment I enjoy playing in. And you know what else? Out of I think 12 weeks, we've had 8 Gressels
Wow.
so far.
Wow. We've had
Yeah.
one, and I don't know how many
Yeah.
times we've killed KT. 6 or 7
Pro-
now?
Yeah, probably 6. I think we've killed KT maybe 6 times. We have 1 Gressel. We've had 4 healing maces, which
Wow.
was pretty exciting for our healers.
4?
We had 0 Cthulhu maces to this day, so
Oh,
we're
yeah.
kind of getting rewarded for.
Yeah, I've
Have
seen
we
one.
had 4? Really?
Yeah.
Pretty good. We've got someone in the guild who's like the designated dagger rogue, and every week a Gressel drops, and he's like, and then we go and kill Cthulhu. He never ever gets Death Sting or King's
Oh,
Fall,
no.
and he's like suffering so badly.
It's the same that happens to our rogues.
Yeah, we have a dagger rogue who's like been top DKP for a while. No Death Sting, no King's Fall, just no daggers for them allowed.
It's just routine. Every week, Gressel. It's crazy. Other than that, it's good fun. Go in, press Shadow Bolt. That's that's what I do.
Well, we'll set a goal for an hour and a half Nax when we have 8 Gressels, and then we'll we'll kind
Right.
of see how we go from there.
Yeah. I guess it helps you get the best DPS class with the best gear. That's a good thing to have happen.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I unfortunately, I went to my first BWO with my lock, and I did a whole bunch of research on how to do the best DPS, and it just ended with Shadowbolt, and I was like, crap.
Yeah. That's well, you already know the rotation for TBC then.
I guess so. Oh, it's kind of a bummer, but oh well.
That's the life,
Yep. All right, well, let's go ahead and move into the news. So first off, the first thing that happened was new Burning Crusade Classic assets showed up, right? I first saw this in a tweet from, I forget who, it was a streamer. But basically, it just showed a whole bunch of assets, and then he tweeted out his picture of the classic PTR. So I immediately logged on to the classic PTR and saw the choice to, or saw the warning message that said WoW Classic's going to be moving on to the Burning Crusade soon. You're gonna have to pick one of these 2 options. So I was like, oh, sweet. What I didn't get on that though is why that was on the PTR, but now after thinking about it, it's just to test the message. At first I thought maybe everybody was going to get in the beta, and the beta was just going to have a 3-day long queue, but I don't think that's the case. I think it's just to test the warning message that's going to pop up probably pretty soon. What do you guys think of this before we talk about the next big one?
I think that well, WillE was saying before the podcast, talking about how there really hasn't been any info. I do think it's kind of sad that 3+ weeks after BlizzCon, we're like clamoring. We're all clamoring about like a pop-up message in the PTR because they just aren't giving us any info. We're like, oh, it's happening, something's happening. But this would be way more exciting if they hadn't already announced Burning Crusade.
Right.
They'd be like, oh, clearly it's coming out. This is just when this confuses me about like what the PTR is. Is this all coming in the same patch? Is spell batching getting removed at the same time this match is coming out? Like,
yeah,
what is this PTR
I'm so
anymore?
confused about when the spell batching thing is going to come out, because it's going to change speed runs, it's going to change logs, it's going to change so much. I'm starting to wonder if we're not going to get it just like you thought, Yip, until pre-patch.
I think we're not getting it until pre-patch, but I also thought the servers were going to split on pre-patch. So if like this message comes with spell batching removal, then that means the servers aren't splitting at pre-patch. But I think the servers are splitting at pre-patch.
Well, I'd assume they'd split at pre-patch as well. Yeah, that's what I think.
I mean, she even I rewatched Holly's interview today, and she even said when pre-patch hits, they will split. Like that's when the clone happens.
I've been saying that in guild, and it's like nobody believes me. They're like, "Oh, I wonder when it's gonna split." I'm like, "I swear we watched it all together," and she definitely said at pre-patch.
Yeah,
is the snapshot, which absolutely makes sense because like
complete sense.
the fundamental classic is going to be changing at pre-patch. Like, so you shouldn't be able to keep anything past
Yeah,
pre-patch into the classic
and
era server.
if they didn't split, then you'd get to farm for your, WoW Classic era character through TBC, but then the snapshot would be way back before you were farming, and you haven't moved to the server yet. Like, so it would
Yeah.
just be it would waste your time. So it makes sense that they're just going to split when that pre-patch hits.
Yeah. So I think they're just testing, like they're just testing whatever on this PTR. I mean, it's just I don't know how much info we can glean from this about
Right.
timelines or anything like that.
Yeah,
Or what this
I
means.
think it's just like, everyone knows it'll happen. It doesn't really matter if we see it or not,
I
to be
did
honest.
I did go into the PTR and just hit some of those trading dummies they have outside of Stormwind, and boy, no spell matching feels so good, guys. It feels so good. So I
yeah.
can't wait for that. But the next more juicy stuff is basically they found data, global strings in the new PTR that say Burning Crusade transition default clone date May 18th, 2021. Now, some people are guessing that this is the TBC release date. I think this is pre-patch release date. This is the date they clone. This is the date the servers split. Could just be a placeholder. What do you guys think?
I could see it being the pre-patch, personally. I mean, if we beta Tuesday, 16th, 2 months of beta, 3 to 4 weeks of pre-patch, TBC.
Yeah, I think it lines up absolutely perfectly with what we've got so far. I think from this this I don't even know what you call this. I guess they were data mining this, but the strings that come out, these are all pre-patch things. Like it says like this character will now be locked to a classic era server. Like all the other stuff that came out with this is clearly a pre-patch.
Yeah, I mean, it says clone date, right?
Yeah. So
So
May 18th, I think honestly, I think that timeline works out. For me personally, I think that's like as late as I would want it to be. A month of pre-patch from there to a June, middle of June launch of TBC, I think is honestly is perfect with the way things are right now. Give you a little bit of time to play with the pre-patch, but leveling really shouldn't be too insane for the shamans and stuff. You have a month, and I think how this timeline works out.
Yeah, I
And-
hope we get a long pre-patch,
Yeah,
because
I mean,
it's
I'd be
normally
cool.
between 2 to 4 weeks, and it's
Yeah.
such a unique time. Like, it's never going to happen again with this
Yeah.
amount of players,
Yep.
ever, really.
Like
So I
level
hope it
60,
sticks around for a while.
level
Yeah,
60.
speedruns, arena,
And-
battlegrounds.
Yeah, or you could do the
It's so cool.
arena stuff. You could do the different talents with level 60. Like it could be a really neat time. And also for anybody working up, you are going to have the faster. You're going to have the increased experience. You're going to have the new quests, like for instance in the place above Blasted Lands. I forget the name of it always. Swamp of
Marsh.
Sorrows. Or yeah, Swamp of Sorrows. Above
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smug Sprocket. Oh,
Swamp. I'm pretty sure it's Swamp of Sorrows above the Blasted Lands, bottom right of
that
the
is
map.
above Blasted Lands. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought you were thinking the new quest hub in Dust Swallow.
Oh, yeah. There's
Yeah,
there's also that. Then there's also you could solo elite quests. I think working up is going to be a lot quicker. So I'm hoping for 4 weeks. I don't know if I want 6 weeks, but I definitely don't want 2 weeks. So
The thing is, like, the date that it comes out is what matters most. At May 18th, I want 4 weeks. But if beta was only going to be a month long, and then I'm okay with like 6 to 8 weeks of pre-patch. I just don't want TBC to be pushed any further for
True.
it. But like beta is not that exciting to me at all. I also want people to have enough time in Nax, of course, but I think pre-patch time is going to be a really like enjoyable time. It'll be really special. People are going to be leveling their alts. Things are going to be super wacky. So if it's like 6 weeks, that's fine, but not at May 18th. At May 18th, let's do the 4 weeks.
same.
I agree.
Yeah, I think 4's long enough.
Oh, and then I don't know where this rumor came from. I don't think there's I tried to find a trace of who started the rumor, but everybody seems to be saying that March 15th, this coming Tuesday, a day after this podcast will release, the beta is supposed to start. So I don't know where that came from, but I've been hearing it in all kinds of in Discord servers. I've been hearing it on Twitter. I've been hearing it everywhere.
It was a leaked internal thing about signing your friends and family up for friends and family beta. I think it said on 15th that would unlock for people.
Oh, is that
and it,
what it came
yeah,
from? What we talked about
yeah,
last
it was
week?
it was an image that said this is how you sign your friends and family up for beta, and then this is the beta day, and it had that info on there. Whether or not that's real, I mean, I think it all adds up to this timeline. We've also, I mean, they said beta soon, right? I think a month after is soon. And I think 2 months after, a month and a half after is kind of just like, come on, like don't tell us beta soon if it's gonna be this long.
Yeah, I mean, they've said the beta. Well, they've got most of the groundwork done, so the beta cycle shouldn't be as long. But
Yeah,
a month and a half, 2 months, I can still see it being that. I don't remember how long the classic one was. Well, 3 to 4 months, maybe.
3 months.
I don't.
Roughly.
Is it 3?
Yeah, roughly 3 months.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the content in that beta was limited, right? So there's not anywhere near as much to test in TBC, right? You only have a couple of zones, whereas we were leveling from 30 to 30, and then I think they capped you at 30 for a while, and then they let you level to 40, and they capped you at 40. I think that was the how the beta worked.
Yeah,
For
they did
classic,
something like
so
that. Yeah,
it's kind of
don't know.
bizarre.
I don't know. I think they gave people free levels too if they wanted it
Yeah.
in
I
certain
think on
situations.
the later cycles, you just got a level 40.
Yeah.
So I guess you could test out all the end of talent tree abilities and stuff.
Yeah, but that to me seems like, okay, I don't think like this beta is not for probably testing like heroics or anything like that. They might just have people level, they might give you a 70, or maybe they'll have people level from 60 to 70 for a month, and then another month is like, here you can have a 70 and we want you to test out dungeons or something like that. Who knows? But it's not going to be that much to test. So I think a
Yeah.
3 or 4 month beta would be like, what's going on?
Yeah, this is
Players
literally their
players are
old.
live test rates.
Yeah, this is
as
literally their original code. Whereas WoW Classic, they had to recreate a lot of stuff because they only had later patches. So
Well, I think they're going to test the changes, right? The SomeChanges that they're
probably,
going with. I
I
think
think that's. Yep, I think you're right.
that's the only
Yeah.
thing they really need to test. The rest of it, they know the world works. They know everything else works fine. So just the interactions of the changes that they're making, how is that going to affect other things?
Well, that's a perfect transition into discussion. So we're going to talk about some changes. So I wouldn't be doing myself, service without talking about dual spec. But we're going to talk about it a little different this time, because initially I wanted this bar none, want it now, want it just like it was in Wrath. But I've recently changed my mind a bit because of different situations other people have pointed out to me. So let's kind of talk like the pros. We all know the pros, unless someone wants to point out the pros is just it makes it easier. I think WillE's pointed out many times that he wants, dual spec to change his buttons. I want that too. Like that's huge, right? Is there any other pros that you could think of?
Yeah, I mean it's just the convenience factor, really. If you could just press even if I paid 50 gold and it changed my buttons for me, that'd be great.
Yes.
Because,
Yeah.
Yes.
If I'm a
is not
rogue
problem.
and I've got combat for PvE and I've got sub for PvP, they're two completely different setups and specs. If I could just press a button, it does it for me, then that's okay, in my opinion.
I respect
agree.
last night. I was saying, I respect last night. I have Mitomenethil. I put my points into sword spec, and I spend another 45 gold because I'm an idiot, and I would like to just avoid that. Like I don't want to have to keep messing up. That's the second time I've made that mistake, and that cost adds up. And I probably will keep making that mistake.
Speaking of which, I have respect Lockdude a bunch recently, and I've tested. If I respec and I get the same, what's the one where you get a instant cast, and then you get a shard back if they die within 5 seconds.
Shut up, Ben.
Okay, so I had to repay for learning all of the ranks of that if I didn't have it in my my spec. Like, but if I
Gotcha.
respec and
Yeah,
I
what's
have
up with
it,
that?
yeah, if
Yeah,
you
if
have
you-
it and you respec back into it, you don't have to retrade it. It's the weirdest thing.
I don't know if that's a bug or what. I don't know if that's intentional, but it is bizarre that
Yeah, it doesn't do that with every spell either. Even ones that have ranks.
Yeah, I don't feel like it does it with every spell. I feel like it's randomly. I'm like,
like,
crap.
I
There's
got
things
ya.
I have to train.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, well, I'm using rank 1 of this thing tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seems like it's the stuff in talents, but seems like there's some stuff in talents that it's not. But I did find out if you respec right back into that talent, you do not have to relearn it. If you spec to something else, then spec back into that talent, you have to relearn it. It's bizarre.
It's
but
pretty funny as a warrior because the ranks do almost nothing for warrior because it's like okay, mortal strike, it does your base damage, and then just the extra damage that you get or whatever is slightly increased. Bloodthirst the same way, it does a % of your attack power, and then a little, it's like 5 extra healing per hit if you get the ranks up. So it's like I've definitely forgotten to like retrain Bloodthirst, and it's like barely an inconvenience, but it really is bizarre.
Yep.
Yeah, but if I forget to retrain like Holy Nova
Yeah, that's
and we're going to do jump runs, I'm like, oh, I used rank 1 Holy Nova on accident when we were doing our first jump runs, and I was like, man, I don't know what's going on. They're just not dying very fast. And, they eventually died, and then I realized I had switched my buttons for raid, and I used rank 1 for certain fights, and so I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, it was hilarious. I was like, why are these dying? Like, why are these never dying? And she's like, oh, I'm using rank 1. But some of the cons that have been brought up to me, and I really think they're bad cons now, is that if you allow dual spec, then guilds are going to take advantage of that, and you're always going to have the perfect amount of healers for each fight. If you don't need as many healers, they're going to be expected to switch over to DPS, and that's going to trivialize a lot of the content for lots of people, and that is bad. Like that is completely bad. And I was pointed out that even in later expansions of World of Warcraft, they had this thing where you could bring an item that would allow you to respec on the spot, and they were having people respec every different fight. And he said it was just horrible. And you talked about that too, didn't you?
Yeah, I've talked about that. I really hate that style of gameplay, but it wasn't so much that people were abusing it. That was just the way talents functioned. You would have a talent that maybe had a talent like level that has a really strong single target or an AoE ability. Oh, it's an AoE fight. You switch over, use your like Tome of Knowledge, switch over to the AoE ability. For a single target fight, you switch over to the single target. I don't like that because I think the whole point is like, okay, I want to play this spec. It excels at this particular thing, and I bring that to raid. I think the other problem is that it's not just healers are going to be like switching to DPS and things like that. One of the major reasons feral druids are really good, even early on before they start getting super geared, is that they can be a cat and DPS really decently in their feral gear. Whereas a warrior, we're not going to be Fury Prot anymore wearing a ton of DPS gear. So when we're not main tanking, we're kind of like worthless. But if I can just switch over to arms, then I can now do what a cat druid is supposed to be doing as a warrior. And it fundamentally changes the way you approach a raid when you can just like respec everybody in your raid as you go. And that's just crazy.
Yeah, but so
I
then
mean,
Go on.
so could you just have it where you have to be at the
well, hold on. We're gonna talk about possible ways to make it better though, but I want cons first.
Yeah, I mean, to add on to the cons, it's you don't know what it will do entirely. Like, it's impossible to predict with the amount of players being thrown into the game the full effect it would have if you allowed the actual Wrath of the Lich King version. Because, I mean, even in Classic, that's been done to death on private servers. We've seen people come up with new stuff because Blizzard servers instead of that. And on top of that, when it was actually brought in Wrath of the Lich King, it wasn't just your talents or your bars or anything like that. They had glyphs then. And if you actually wanted to optimize your character, glyphs made a big difference So you'd have to
Huge
carry
difference.
stacks of glyphs with different specs, which made it a real pain to have to go and redo it again and again. And that doesn't exist in TBC, so that sort of
Yep.
lessens the need for it.
It's probably the whole reason it came out in the first place.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, it's just a bit spooky, you know? You don't,
Yeah.
'cause once it's in, it's in.
Yeah, I
and
know. And you
You're
can't
stuck with
take
it.
it. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, I really want it. So I'm going to throw this to Mel first because she had an idea about how to make it not cause problems, but still get to have a version of it.
I mean, I think there's a couple ways you can make it where you have one PvP spec and one PvE spec, and you can only use your PvP spec when you're in battlegrounds or something like
I've
that.
heard
You
that
could
one.
do that. You could also, I guess, just make it so you have to be at the trainer to respec. You can't do it anywhere else. But the problem I think with that is you look at some other changes that they want to make where you can summon into dungeons, and I think you just have the same process of people going to respec and being resummoned back in. It's just slightly more annoying. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean the new meta would be, all right, we'll all set our hearts to the closest trainer that we
Right.
have, and we'll summon everyone back once they go respec. Which, to be fair though, can we not already do that? If you know your spec really well, other than the summoning into dungeon, couldn't we already, that the functionality is already sort of there. You can just go back to your trainer and respec and then get summoned back and put that all in. Right now, there's not really a raid that I think we'd even want to do that for, but that's at a normal level. We're talking about like speed runs or parsing runs, then that might be different come TBC. Not
Right.
really so much in Classic. I feel like no one's like, oh, I got to go respec my warrior for this patchwork fight versus
Yeah.
this, other
I mean,
fight.
funnily enough, for that on Warcraft logs, they actually imposed a restriction for speedrun guilds where they can't swap players, or they can only
Yeah.
swap like a few. Because if you look at the first weeks, I think Onslaught, the first 12 guild to clear it in the world, used like 70 players total.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep,
South
yeah.
LA came on. He said they had 80 players, I think. Well,
80. Oh my
including
God.
alts. It might have been. I think it was
Yeah,
70
yeah.
players, and I think some of them might have been alts that were also like waiting with DMF buffs and
Yeah.
things
So
like
that's
that.
because the nature of Naxxramas, you finish your wing, you zone it at the start, so you just kick whoever
Right.
died, or bring in more warriors.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
Dolly came on and told the entire story on episode 25. It was
Ah.
super cool. They had some people that were crossing over with alts, but they basically had two separate raids run. Basically, they ran one wing, then the other raid came in, or ran two wings. The other raid came in, ran two wings. Then while they were running that two wings, the first raid was rebuffing for KT and Saf. It was really
Wow.
interesting to hear, but you're
It's
right.
extreme coordination right
Yeah,
there.
those guys are absolutely next level. Like
I
my
mean, it's
mind
nuts.
can't comprehend.
Like so beyond my comprehension of how we
Yeah.
would get everybody to do that.
I can't even get our guild to focus the same target. I don't know how we're gonna.
Yeah.
Or
They're on another
or
level.
Sunder,
Truly.
but unfortunately they have broken up. So RIP to Onslaught. We enjoyed watching your run through Classic, but so you're absolutely right. We can do that now. We just don't need to. But in TBC, the sweatiest guilds are going to do that, whether it's 50 gold or free or not. But I think making it not free keeps us casual guilds from having to do this type of min maxing. So what I was thinking was maybe you have dual spec, but it only goes up to 25 gold to switch your dual specs at the trader. And then you actually have two different specs, two different button sets, and then if you want to change the full spec and not just swap, then that's your normal 50 gold. I think that would be a nice kind of medium, and that, or maybe even a better one, is just to have like a 4-hour cooldown on changing your dual spec. So you're going to change it once before raid, and you're not going to change it back until after raid. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that limits you in other ways, though, right? I think you can't go do battlegrounds right before you raid. And it kind of introduces this whole raid logging aspect again because you can't change your spec 4 hours before the raid, which isn't the end of the world. I'm just trying to think of how that would affect actually playing the game, right? We're getting rid of world buffs, so you don't have to raid log it anymore. And then if you introduce something like this, I feel like you have a similar problem. But I don't know. I don't think that the money, 25 gold, 50 gold, I don't think that the money is going to deter anything. I don't think anybody's going to have trouble saying go pay 25 gold to respec because it's just like go pay 25 gold to get your Froster's potions. Like if it's something that makes it better for the raid, I think that everybody will do it. I mean, not everybody, but anybody who's in a semi-hardcore guild. It'll just become the meta.
I think that if it is actually overpowered to go respec and get summoned back, then there's nothing you can really do to get rid of that. I think it's way too massive of a change to put a cooldown on all respecking. So if it was really, really easy or really, really good to go back and respec, people will just do it non-dual spec way. They'll just hit all their buttons and come back. Like the really try hard people, if it is overpowered, then they'll just do it that way. So I think the cooldown is like just it's a deterrent, but it's not going to fix a con of bringing in multiple spec people of the really, really try hard guilds. So I'm not sure if that really fixes it. I think that if they just make it so you have to do it at your trainer like normal and they just save your spec so that I can switch, I think that's really all they have to do. I think if people want to go super crazy with the summoning stuff, maybe they feel it out in phase 1 because phase 1 is going to be pretty slow. I think like if people are porting out and porting back in for different specs on the 2 bosses in Grohl's lair, then like I just don't know what to say about that. I feel like throw it in normal. Just let us save our specs, right? Like, what is dual spec? No one's asking for dual spec so we can on the spot switch our spec, right? Like, no one's like, I want to on the fly switch my spec.
I mean, I
They
think
just
there are
want-
people asking for that. I mean, there are people that would like to be able to be PvP spec when they're running to a raid and then switch to their PvE spec when they get there, which
Yeah,
would be
I mean,
nice.
I want that.
I mean, yeah, but like,
Mm.
okay, but that goes beyond reasonable quality of life. Where right now, I feel like there's negative quality of life, right? Like it's an inconvenience to put your talents back in. It's an inconvenience to have to redo your bars. And it's like more than an inconvenience. It's a hindrance to gameplay to do it that
Yeah.
way. Wanting your to be able to switch specs on wanting to be able to walk over to a raid as PvP and then switch to PvE. I think you're just asking for something that isn't in the game. You're going beyond get rid of something that's inconvenient, and now you just want like convenience. Like, well, why isn't there just a button to teleport me to raid?
Yeah.
Like where you start that slope of too much quality of life, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
but
what if
as
you
long-
don't
what
call
about-
it dual spec? What if you don't call it dual spec? What if you just call it talent saving? Like you have talents saved that redo your bars and redo your talents, and you can change those.
Yeah, with these
But-
talent revendors, do the job. Actually, save your talents for you.
Yeah, you
Or
can
still make
save.
an add-on.
Yeah,
We've got item rack. That's good for items, but why don't we have bar rack?
yeah,
Yeah, bar rack.
That'd be
we
great.
had talked about with Corpse in our guild about maybe finding out, like trying to make a weak aura or something that would just make it so you can't like spec into the wrong stuff with different like specs listed and stuff like that. But it really is, and it's not just dual spec. Your trainer, I don't see there's zero reason why your trainer can't just have like 5 specs that you can save, and every time you go to your trainer, just select one, and
Yeah.
it's
Select
fine.
one. Here's 50 gold. Job
Yeah.
done.
That'd be
There's-
I
nice.
just don't see
zero-
why
that would be
that's so
better.
hard. Yeah.
I will.
Like there's no difference. If you know your spec and you know where your bars are, there's no reason why. Like it's absurd.
I mean, we had it in later, but it'd just also be nice to have a confirmation button before your talents actually go live. So you, especially if you're in a hurry respecing before raid, you click one too many times on this one talent, all of a sudden you got to pay another 50 gold or be, or just be kind of gimped during that fight. So maybe a confirmation button, and then also, I didn't even think about saving like 5 different, spec. What would you call that? Not like
Just like spec.
Loadouts or something, I guess.
Yeah, loadout.
Yeah, loadout's
Yeah.
a good way to say it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine. I mean, the confirmation button alone is convenient because I have this problem. I won't leave the trainer until I put my proper spec in. I got to make sure I did it right before I leave the trainer. If there's a confirmation button, I can start flying to the dungeon and put all my talents in, or I can fly to wherever I'm going to do world PvP and put the talents in as I go. But right now, I'm like sitting at like I'll be 10 minutes. I'm just making sure I don't put it in
Yeah.
sword spec again this
Man,
time.
I got to stay at the trainer at the moment because I've got to relearn Shadowburn again, apparently.
Yeah.
All right, well, I just want to take it back, though, and see if Willie had anything to say about the cooldown thought.
I think it's got something to it on the cooldown, but I don't know. I think it'd have to incorporate some of the other things, as in, I don't know, saving loadouts, just adding more convenience to it, really.
Yeah, I'd be
I think
fine
if
with
dual
that.
spec existed, my favorite version would just be you have a PvP spec, you have a non-PvP spec, and just leave it at that. I think that's the least intrusive. And even back in Wrath of the Lich King, you had dual spec, but if you wanted to respec within either of your dual specs, it still costs 50 gold.
Yep.
Yeah.
And 50 gold is not going to be as much in TBC.
I mean, 50 gold TBC, it's like 50 gold with Wrath of the Lich King. It's like,
What if I add on to
just throw it
that
out.
PvP, PvE spec? What if I say you get 4 specs and they change where you're at? You have an open world spec. You have a 5-man dungeon spec. You have a raid spec, and you have a BG and arena spec, and it changes your buttons, everything when you zone in to that particular activity. What do you guys think of that?
My feeling on that is in Wrath, I played a PvP mage and I played a lot. And I had 2 PvP specs that I would play around with in Arena. I had a prospec and a fire spec, and I would respec them separately. So I would practice, maybe dueling with my fire spec, and it's like, okay, this is great. So are you suggesting that it's gonna force me to have a spec when I'm like out dueling at Stormwind because I'm in the open world? Or
Good point.
like
Good
I
point.
think that is like
that would knock
yeah.
out dueling. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it'd be
I
a bit
also
over the
go ahead.
top as well, because I don't know, your bars would just be changing all the time and you wouldn't be in control of them.
Like,
Like,
oh crap.
you say, yeah. You'd be like, you press a button and you're like, oh, I'm in the open world, doesn't work like that. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it's a bit too automated.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I is there a reason they shouldn't? So okay, so assuming we're going to TBC with no changes, you can go back to your trainer and respec whenever and get summoned back to the dungeon. So is there really a reason they shouldn't allow us to save specs? Like I think that's the bare minimum. I think everyone can agree that there's almost I can't think of a single drawback to allowing us to save specs and save our bars. I think that is a some change. That's the level of some change that I think will upset exactly 0 people.
Yeah.
And I think that they absolutely should try to do something like that.
I mean,
Because
there will be that one person, that's really vocal about that being stupid, but they're
yeah, but I think
changes.
if they dissect the reason they're upset about it, I don't think there's going to be like an actual reason behind it,
Oh, for sure.
other than just that's not how it was. But
They just
it's
like
such
to
a
be upset.
yeah.
Yeah. I think saving bar loadouts or something, I imagine it can't be done through add-ons. I bet someone would have
Yeah.
tried to do it by now, unfortunately. Yeah, I do like the idea of that, and I mean, I don't even respect that often, to be honest, as a warlock. Like, I've pretty much got my one raiding spec, and I'd only respec for battlegrounds, which I haven't done too frequently. But I appreciate if you're playing, I don't know, a resto shaman or just healers in general at the moment. When you're not healing, you're not the most useful, unfortunately,
Yeah.
is the lifestyle. So that'd be nice.
Yeah. And I think, like, for a priest at least, I think your PvE spec, your survivability is not great. So a PvE spec, you're going to have a lot more survivability, or a PvP spec, you're going to have a lot more survivability. And I think that's the pro there. I just don't go PvP.
I mean, keep in mind too, TBC is the expansion where gear starts having healing and spell power on it. They clearly want you to do this. Like it's already built in the game that it's good for you to like respec. You don't have to change your gear out because you already have some spell power gear. I think that is just I think that's totally fine. We're getting way bigger changes in TBC than anything like just some convenience of keeping your spec. So some form of dual spec, mainly just saving your spec, I think is what everyone is on board with.
So get this. All this time, I've wanted dual spec. I still, if Classic was restarting today, I would want dual spec in Classic. But I have been talked out of it for TBC. I no longer want dual spec. I want exactly what you're talking about, loadouts and just the ease of respecking quickly. Because now 50 gold is more like 20 gold was in Classic once we go to TBC. It's a completely different thing. I would have been happy in Classic with a 20 gold respec. So I am actually off the dual spec train.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I the amount of gold we have is obscene. The amount of gold that Nax cost, I just don't even care about respecing anymore. Like I was complaining that I spent 45 gold because I hit the wrong spec, but at the end of the day, like I'll spend an extra 45 gold because of like an accident in Nax. Like, I'll die
Yeah.
in Nax and spend more than
I'm
45 gold. So it really is just whatever at
I'm
this point to me.
roughly spending 300 to 500 gold per week on consumes throughout whatever we do, Nax and whatever else. So 50 gold is no longer really a problem now. It was early on. It's not really now. And so, yeah, it's crazy that I'm actually off the dual spec train. But let's talk about jewel crafting. So in TBC, jewel crafting was one of the few trade skills that you could get the trade skill benefit, which is in enchanting your rings, and then you could drop jewel crafting. Or sorry, no, enchanting. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I wrote
Jewel
that down
crafting
wrong.
has better
Yeah,
has
yeah,
Should be
better
both, I
crafting.
think.
yeah.
Yeah, better
It should
gems
be,
for
yeah.
yourself.
They have, and I think you can also drop and still keep those gems in your gear too. So
You can.
okay, enchanting and jewel crafting, I did write that down wrong. But what do you guys think about that? Should they be locked in and come up with some sort of plan to make you stay in that trade skill to get those benefits?
I mean, it doesn't even make any sense why that was everything in the first place. When I was, back in phase 1, if I made my Robe of the Void, my Bis chest, my Warlock, and I wanted to put that on and actually get the benefits, you still had to be tailoring, right? Or to actually wear it had a 300 and something
No,
tailoring requirement.
you just had to craft it.
So
Yeah,
you didn't need
TB,
the
yeah,
I think
tailoring.
It was
TBC is
bind on.
when everything, yeah, it was bind on pickup. So you had to craft it yourself, but you didn't actually have to have the skill to wear it. So you could drop it after you crafted it. And in TBC is when they added all the requirements, like to still use your flying carpet mount, you would have to always have at least, I think, 300 tailoring for the epic one, or 325 or
yeah,
something, but it had it
I
on
think
the item.
in classic the big thing was Bloodvine, where you wouldn't get the set bonus for not having tailoring. I think it's
Mm.
2% crit or something like that for not having tailoring. I think it doesn't make sense within the bounds of TBC to not allow you to uh to allow you to keep those benefits without having the trade skill. So if you look at blacksmith, I'm gonna probably be going blacksmith. Let's say I'm doing it for PvE because I think that's just a little bit easier to think about. One of the benefits I have as a blacksmith is I can craft my own sword as a tank, and I'm going to get a huge benefit because I don't have to wait for King's Defender to drop in Karazhan. I'm going to immediately get this awesome bonus. And not only do I have to stay a blacksmith, I have to stay a swordsmith blacksmith in order to keep using that sword. So my benefit as a blacksmith, which there is a benefit kind of equivalent to having better gems or being able to enchant your rings, I get some sort of raid benefit by having that profession. Um, but I lose it if I'm not that profession. I think that every profession should have the same thing. You are at a small disadvantage by being enchanting because enchanting, you're not crafting your own gear, you're not getting any sort of raid or PvP benefit. So what they did was they let you enchant your rings, and I think that's great. But it doesn't really. I don't like that there might be a meta of people just like getting every time I get a new ring, I'm gonna have to level up my enchanting again, or I'm gonna have to save all these gems, or every time I get a bis piece, I'm gonna have to change this, and that's I don't like metas like that. I don't think it makes sense. It doesn't really align with what I think Blizzard would want either. I think it's just something they forgot to deal with. So I think it's a change that is good.
How difficult would it be for them? to remove enchants if
Okay.
you didn't have 300 chanting? I guess that's my biggest question.
Yeah, so that's the problem that I run into. It'd be easy with the gems because you just replace the gem that is not allowing you to equip the gear after dropping Jewelcrafting. But enchanting, they would have to put in a system where you could remove an enchant from an item with some sort of consumable maybe, or maybe, because you couldn't enchant over it because you can't enchant rings unless you're an enchanter. So there'd have to be something put in. It'd be a little work, but I don't think it'd be much, right?
But I guess they already kind of have it, like Yip was saying with the Bloodvine. If you're not a 300 Taylor, you don't get that set bonus. So
Yeah.
you
It
could
just
still have the
grays out.
enchant on a ring. It just grays out if you get it rid of 300 enchanting.
Easy. Good call.
Yeah, if
Yep.
they could do that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be
That
nice.
makes sense.
It is a little minor, right? It's not like the biggest. None of these are like insane benefits, but it is just kind of lame that you
I feel
can.
like it's not something that will affect guilds like ours because we're not the I don't know, super hardcore bringing 80 people to the first Nax run. But I think for guilds like that and speedrun guilds and things like that, I think it affects them the most, which I know is a smaller percent of the population, but they're the ones that are going to have to do those min-max things to the T. And I
Yeah.
just think it's stupid.
Yeah, I don't see any. I don't really see many arguments. It's just like the dual spec. I don't know why. This would not be a hill anyone dies on to say it should stay this way. I think no one's like so adamant about. No, I want this to stay like this. This is how TBC is. I've been playing TBC private servers for 10 years, and I always craft my gems and then drop it. I just don't think anyone is that into this.
Yeah, I'd rather not have to do it. To be honest, it just sounds kind of annoying.
Yeah.
So I have to constantly, you get your 2 best rings and you're like, well, I'm going to throw 100 gold and a few hours or however long it takes of doing this. I'll probably have a bank ult with however many times I need to re-level enchanting,
Right.
3 or 4 times. You just have the material stored on them, waiting to go.
Super
And
annoying.
yeah, it doesn't sound very fun.
Yeah, and TBC professions are finally like cool. Like I don't think professions are that cool in Classic. You don't have a lot of like class fantasy tied in with them. Even if it's like, oh, cool, I'm a rogue, I'm leatherworking, and like you're not. What are you even doing with it in Classic? I guess you have like a cooldown that you're using that makes you a little money. But I like that. It's like, oh, I'm a blacksmith. I've got these special weapons I can create. And then it's like, oh, time to drop blacksmithing for enchanting again. Like, it's just so weird. I guess you wouldn't drop blacksmithing; that's a little expensive. But I like that I'm picking these professions that fit how I want to build my TBC character. I just let me have those professions. Like that's
It also just it discourages alt play because you're wasting those few hours you could be playing on an alt and enjoying yourself, or PvPing, or doing arena, or doing fun things, and it seems broken, and it seems like it's gonna force sweaties to be even more sweaty, and I just don't want it.
This is a realistic change too, because did they change it in Classic that you couldn't put the sharpening stones on other people's weapons? That was an active change they had to make for the Nax sharpening stones.
That was
Because
an
everyone
active
was saying,
change they took, yeah.
right. So
Unless private servers were wrong. Private servers could have been wrong.
right. No, I think I do remember there being an actual change to make that happen though. And then with like putting idle enchants on other classes as well too,
That
they
was a
fixed
change.
that.
Yeah.
This kind of seems in line with that. They're just like, we didn't mean for you to be doing
This
this.
wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah, like let's
But
just
if we
get
knew
that.
if we knew you were going to be doing this, you wouldn't be doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. All right. Well, so okay, raid group rotation. What is it? It's where you can take a shaman can cast bloodlust every 2 minutes, right? But then whoever gets it gets sated for 5 minutes. So you could theoretically rotate a shaman to 3 different groups, giving that bloodlust to 5 with the shaman, 4 and 4, 8. So 14 people could get the benefit over a 5-minute period with a shaman being rotated. Is this bad? Like, should we not be able to do this? Should, as soon as the fight starts, should like groups get locked, or should you be able to rotate? How do you guys feel on this?
I don't
We've
think you can lock groups. I think that's too much. I mean, what if a bunch of people die in one group and you want to rotate a group? I feel like if you're rotating a shaman through 3 different groups, fine. It gives you a benefit of having a shaman. Like, I just don't see that this is like a awful thing. And I think that the repercussions of locking the groups once a fight starts could be detrimental to progress in different areas.
What do you think, Willie?
the well, with heroism and bloodlust, you can there's no stated at all. You can rotate it forever on one group if you wanted.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So you could have every single shaman just swapped into the same group. Heroism, 40 seconds go by, another shaman. Heroism, repeat, 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 as many shamans as you have.
And
There's
so,
absolutely no restriction on it at all.
and see, the way I
Yeah.
see a problem with it is guilds deciding they're going to have a 4-man pumper group and give those pumpers all of everything, right? Is that
Right,
possible?
Yeah, so you've got your hunter group, your 3BM hunters with a feral and an
Okay,
enhancement.
because
You got
sated
your
goes on the
Lockcaster group.
shaman, not on. So the shaman's cooldown is 5 minutes, but it doesn't give a cooldown to everybody who gets the benefit. Now that's correct,
Right,
right?
yeah. Yeah, there's
Okay.
no debuff.
So yeah, basically 4 people in your raid are going to get chosen as the pumpers, and they're going to be the ones that get to parse. How fun's that for
Yeah.
the rest of the raid?
Not very.
I mean, don't
Yeah,
we already have that though to an extent? You put different classes together to get the benefits from
Kinda. I
that.
mean,
No, this is
yeah,
way
it's way
worse
bigger.
because here's the thing. This breaks parsing meta. That's the biggest problem here. Is that even in a bad, it's harder to parse in a bad guild, but you can parse in a worse guild. We've had people in our guild where I think we're slightly above average. We've had people pink parse. We've had people legendary parse. But
Ooh, I
when
got my first 97 parse. Sorry, I
there you
just had
go,
to I
Bob's
just
got a
had to throw that
97
in.
parse.
It's crazy.
Bob's not getting a 97 parse, and like he's gonna be begging every week. Let me have the shamans on this boss this week. It creates this absurd parsing meta where, oh, I want to parse on this boss this week. I want all the heroisms this time, and it's way
Mhm.
too bizarre. The parses are gonna look super super strange. It's one of those things where if they leave it, I wouldn't be surprised if they somehow tried to parse Warcraft logs to say you can only benefit from like one heroism or something, because the parses will just all 99 parses are going to be from somebody taking advantage of this. I think personally, it's just way too bizarre.
Yeah.
If you're
It'll be
moving
like
one shaman around, multiple groups, fine. But if you're talking about but like you said, you can have 5 shamans rotating, everyone's just rotating in and out.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you could I mean it's like at the moment when you got a fire mage, they get a big ignite, they're like, oh, just chuck me every single PI for the whole encounter. And that's fire mage passing. I mean, that'll happen in TBC as well with arcane mages. You just give them every single druid innovate, chuck every single heroism on them, and rotate every single resto shaman for a manatide. And that's how you pass as an arcane in TBC.
Yeah, I get
Um,
I get kind of pissy and kind of whiny when I don't have a hunter assigned to my group. I'd be floored mad if I wasn't in the group that was getting the shaman, and then I'd feel bad. I feel bad for the guys that don't get put in the group with the hunter. I feel bad for them, and I'd feel horrible for anybody not getting the bonus of that. But sorry, Mel, you were going to say something to follow up?
Is this not a thing that they can do on Horde right now?
That's level 70
there's no
Yeah.
heroism.
Yeah,
Oh,
Bloodlust and
okay.
Heroism comes out at level 70. We tried something similar to this. I don't this isn't really an opinion on it, but we had Kim in our guild with the Scarab Brooch. For Viscidus, we tried launching Scarab Brooch with maybe like Zandalarian Hero Charm or something like that to have a lot of extra spell power. And then he was Prayer of Healing, which puts the shield on everyone in the group. And then we were trying to move him around to put a shield on everybody on Viscidus, which I thought that was pretty cool. Like, it's interesting, but Scarab Brooch was broken at the time, so it didn't even work. So that was interesting. I think that sort of thing is like funny and quirky, but when you're talking about the way to do the best parse being something this janky, it just should not exist in the game. I think locking in combat is fine. Maybe you can take advantage of switching in between trash packs or something so you can speed run a dungeon faster because I think speed running is sort of like the really psycho try hard thing to do where it's like, we're going to do this in an hour, we're going to do this in 30 minutes. But normal guilds try to parse. Normal people try to parse, not just psycho players. And I don't think that this is a healthy thing to have. It's going to create inner guild drama. Why am I not the person in this group? It's way too much of a headache.
I guess the other thing to think about for TBC is if you are going to that level of optimization, you'll know whether you're going to be in a group that will do good DPS before you even set foot in the raid. Elemental
Yeah.
shamans are going to be with the moonkins and the warlocks. There's going to be 2 or 3 BM hunters with your feral who are giving 5% crit, and your enhancement are giving 10% attack power, and maybe even the survival hunter, but what they do applies to the whole raid. As if you're playing an arms warrior or a rep paladin or a combat rogue, they're probably going to be, they'll be with a shaman, so they'll be getting wind fury, but they're not going to be getting all these extra crit or damage modifiers by default. So I think you already sort of have a good idea of how much damage you're going to be doing. It's whether people care enough to actually rotate shamans into the warlock and BM hunter groups, or
Right.
whether they're happy for, whichever group, whether it's the, I don't know, Shadow Priest and Healer group, should they get a heroism? Or do you want to change that shaman about and give it to the damage?
Yep, and
Yeah,
it
but I
would
guess
just
what if
make it so I could never parse unless I was doing that, because the really good people parse in the high 90s on most bosses every week. I parse in the high 90s on 3 or 4 bosses each week, or mid 90s. Like, I would never be able to catch up with that type of play unless I did it too, and so it would make me want to do that too.
can't you just I mean, instead of locking, I feel like locking raid groups is an extreme change for a exploit problem when you could just add something where you can't get
A
this ability
debuff.
for 5 minutes or something. Like,
Yeah,
why
a
can't
debuff.
I think that would be easier and it would cause less unforeseen issues, right?
I
Because I
think more
know there will be
realistic. Yeah.
issues with locking raid frames. I can't think of everything right now, but I know that that will cause problems in some way that we're not thinking about.
Yeah, it gets rid of like the fun, like having Kim move groups is like a fun, quirky thing that will help out a guild that's like struggling, not a game breaking thing. I think that the simplest thing and what they'll likely do, if they're going to fix drums, and I assume they're going to fix drums with a debuff like tinnitus or whatever it is for drums, they'll just do the same thing for shaman. I think they'll just give everybody the debuff. If they're fixing drums, I don't see why they wouldn't fix this also.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think it'd be good if, everyone, like, just getting heroism's fun. Be good if everyone got it.
Yeah,
Right.
That's
right.
basically it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I think that's a good way. I think that's a good way to put it.
All right, so next up, the way Arena Season 1 and Season 2 worked was you buy your gear and there was no arena rating required. But then in Season 3 and Season 4, for certain items, oftentimes the best items like weapons, certain arena rating was required. Now, I've heard a lot of people ask for that to be added to Season 1 and Season 2 gear, and I'm asking for it to be taken off of all of the gear. All it does is make the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. If you can't get those items, how do you expect to compete with those guys to work up? So any alt you do, like if you don't get out day one and get those and grind those quick, if you're just an average player, you're probably not going to get those, and then you're never going to be able to move in to the higher echelon of play without being amazing. What do you guys think about this?
Let's forgetting classic. I loved in TBC that you were rewarded in PvP for like your effort. I liked that it was challenging. Once you were rewarded for doing well in arena, I think that's awesome. I don't see any problem with that. I have a problem with the fact that like boost selling. This is going to promote like boost selling. People are just going to like buy their arena weapons. I don't agree with the fact that. So I think Season 2 weapons don't have a arena rating required at all, and it's Season 3 weapons that start.
Yep,
If you're trying to tell
3 and
me,
4.
if you're trying to, do
Shoulders
you know the exact
Shoulders
number?
too,
Is
yep.
it like 1850 or is it like 2K?
It's
think it's
1800 for
1850.
one, and then maybe 1850 for the other.
Yeah, so I think
I
it's
think it's
1850.
1850 shoulders 2K weapon, I think. I don't know for sure, but
Maybe.
Yeah, if it's so let's say it's 1850 for everything at first, and I'm gonna try to see if I can find that. But assuming it's 1850, you are in some serious denial if you think you can't hit 1850 because you're using a season 2 weapon instead of a season 3 weapon. I just don't believe for a second that that is like the problem. If you're telling me like, okay, there's a rating for a weapon and it's super good and it's 2200, okay, well maybe at 2200 your gear might make a big difference. 1850, just get better at playing, get your season 3 weapon. I think that it depends on how they change like the MMR and stuff like that, but I don't think that hitting those numbers were very hard. If 14-year-old me can do it clicking Mortal Strike, I think it's fine. I don't know what it'll be like in Classic though, where people are just selling boosts and maybe it'll be like impossible to hit 1850 because everyone's skill level is so much higher. But 1850 in TBC, if I got it clicking, then if it's that easy to get in Classic also, then I think it's fine. I don't have a problem with it at all.
It was kind of hard. It wasn't hard at the start of the season in TBC for us, but then doing it with alts usually seemed to be really hard because so many people were restarting teams and starting below, and then once you start getting into, you know, the 1800s, you're losing 12 points a loss and only winning like 3 points a win. It started getting weird. So maybe MMR would help that. I don't know
Right,
how
like,
that's going to work out.
yeah, if they're fixing, like, that whole system is they just have to set it in a similar place. I think that that's the big thing. At the same time, I don't think alts should have the best PvP gear in the game. I don't think you should just be able to get whatever you want. I don't think that, you know, let's imagine, you know, Phase 5 is out or whatever. Whenever Tier 6 is coming out in TBC, you have high-end raids who are clearing Sunwell. Should people who can't clear Sunwell be like, Karazhan should drop Sunwell gear now because I can only do Karazhan. They're allowed to do
I see
Sunwell
your
and get
point.
better gear than me. If you're better at PvP, you get better gear. That's how raids work. If
I
you're better
just
at
don't
raiding, you
think
get better
it's.
gear.
I don't think PvP and PvE are apples to apples. You know what I mean? I think it's apples to oranges. I think it's just a different thing.
I personally loved, and listen, something I loved in TBC was the discrepancy. You have some noob alt with no resilience gear, and you're in like full season 1 gear. I want to destroy that person, and that's just how I feel. I don't want in like raiding. I don't want a DPS with no gear to do better than me. I don't want someone who hasn't been PvPing to be able to bring in alt and compete with me right away. I don't think that makes sense. I like the discrepancy. I like that people who are really focused on PvP do have this inherent advantage over others. What I don't like is that people with gold are going to have that advantage because they'll just they'll buy their way to that level, and it muddies what it really even means. So there are problems with it that I think can be fixed. I still like it though. There's just something about it that I like. I think it's cool. It's like it's an item that it's cool. I don't think that the season 2 to season 3 discrepancy is that big of a deal. You can go get raid weapons. You can go get raid items. You can craft, you know, like blacksmithing weapons. There's a lot of alternatives.
It's definitely a badge of justice. Like you see a warlock with those different color season 3 shoulders with the wings that pop out. You're like, oh, dude, he's good.
That's cool.
What do you think, Willie?
I mean, you can get a lot of good PvP gear from raids, first of all. The other thing I think of is with the whole, we don't have battle groups anymore. Well, not how they used to be. For like NA, we've got Oceanic, we've got East and West. For Europe, we have Europe. It's just everyone's thrown together. And they're trying to apply an MMR system to that. So with so many more people in the MMR pool, surely the sort of top end people aren't going to be at 2200. They're going to be way higher.
Right.
Like it was in Wrath, if I remember right. So 1850 and 2K might not be that big of an ask.
Right. So
Yeah.
I think that it should just align, like they should do their best to align what 1850 was back then to now, or if they want to make it a little bit easier, that's fine. I would just have a problem. If it's too hard to get, then that's fine. Like it wasn't that hard to get back in the day. You had to put some work in, but I really think that if I could get it when I really wasn't that good, I don't think I was that good.
You start at 1500 as well, don't you?
Yeah, you start at 1500. Like average is 1500, 1850. That's just
if you have some rough games, well, you know, just remake. It's what, 40 gold each.
Exactly. Not
If
only
they
is it
don't
1500,
if they don't do MMR, that's what people are going to do. You drop down to 1300, you just remake your group. You're back up to 1500.
yeah, we used to do that all the time. Or what we used to do was you would just bring on someone to carry you back up to 1500 as well too. Because if you're at like 1300 back in the day, no one was wearing like resilience gear. It really was like the alts coming in, or people who are just dipping their feet in PvP at 1300, or just
Or
trying to
just
lose
one
their
in
10
10
games.
games. Yep.
Exactly. They just want their 10 losses and move on. So
Yeah. I mean,
it is,
that'll be PvP for a lot of people, you know. Make new
yeah.
team, 10, whatever, I don't care, collect points.
And
Yeah.
I guess you're right. It was harder for the alts, but we did end up getting the 2K for the weapons or whatever it was. We got the weapons on our alts, so it just was quite a bit more difficult. Maybe it was because we weren't as good on those characters, but I don't know. Maybe. Oh, well, I it's a small change, and it seems like the majority of people that I saw on forums and stuff are kind of asking for the requirement to be on season 1 and season 2 arena gear as well. So maybe that change will come in, maybe it won't.
See, I'd be more interested in that because right now the meta is going to be okay. You don't get a weapon in Kara or whatever. You're just gonna in like it's like 4 to 8 weeks. Anyone can get season 1 weapons and just sort of have this huge jump in their ability to raid, which I think is a little bit wonky. I think it is kind of
Yeah.
weird that you can just get good weapons without any
I
thing.
mean, I like that there's additional rewards tied to PvP, because the ones apart from that are like Duelist, Gladiator, rank 1 stuff, and like that
Yeah.
is a tiny portion we're going to see that kind of thing. So I kind of like they've got additional rewards tied to it, because if I didn't care about PvP, but some of the PvP items are really good and they're guaranteed, essentially. If I
Yeah,
just go in there and lose my my 10 5v5 games or whatever and just farm points.
yeah. Well, and in PVE, they're considered welfare epics that kind of get you into raids to start with when you don't have PVE gear.
And for what
Jack in chat though mentions that they have always had an MMR. It was just hidden from the players. I don't know if that's true, but I do know Jack is a really good PvPer, and he even logged in and showed me his titles and all of his PvP gear, season 3 and season 4 on his old character. He literally has a time capsule. I guess the character's like level 32 now because of the squish, but it's a literal time capsule with all of that stuff. So maybe there was a hidden MMR that actually would put you in higher rated games, even though your team rating was lower. I don't know.
I've
don't
heard of that, I
they
think.
They said at BlizzCon that they exclusively, I mean, this could be wrong, but they said at BlizzCon they only used an ELO system in TBC and that they're thinking about putting MMR into the TBC arena. So either they lied to us or, I mean, I'm pretty sure it was just an ELO system,
Or they
but
just don't know, too. Who knows, man?
Yeah, I could be thinking of something else, like, I don't know, usually competitive games have hidden MMR, so people who are good don't, spend 20 games crushing people and just get pushed up to where they should be in like
yeah,
3 or 4 games.
this is
But this
though.
was early days, yeah.
This is early. Yeah, this is before things like that. This is when competitive games, you were like going into like pre-made lobbies to play competitively. Like you're playing Counter-Strike, you're going into a competitive lobby or like a scrim that's already pre-matched. You weren't playing like competitive ranked mode. So I think it might have been pretty different back then. But either way, I think they will probably have to revamp some stuff to make it fit how Classic is, which is fine. I think however they want to revamp it, it doesn't matter if it's 1850 or some other number system. I think people just want to arena each other. Like that's
Mel, did you have anything to add? Are you for or against the rating requirement for shoulders and weapon?
I don't care. I think it's fine.
Okay, cool.
I
Alright.
have something you can cut this in post if you want and put it back. But something to bring up on the last point that we talked about moving groups in combat, and we talked about how maybe a debuff is the best way to avoid shamans like getting moved around. Wouldn't that mean though? And maybe this doesn't even matter because shamans are good without heroism as well too. Couldn't you then heroism the entire raid with only like 2 shamans? And then you wouldn't have to bring as many shamans then if you did it with the debuff thing. That could be its own problem as well too, that
But
just putting a debuff in doesn't fix.
yeah, I agree. But I feel like it's more even across the raid then. everybody
Yeah.
gets it then, right?
You also
So
then
there's
don't have
no
shamans in your raid, so
That's
it
yeah,
I
probably
mean,
doesn't matter.
that's a change that came in Wrath, and I don't. That's one of the changes I didn't like in Wrath because there's something really neat about raid leaders and officers optimizing raids with the classes they have, and moving groups. It's a mini game for the guys in the top of your guild making the strategy. So I like that they have to set those groups up, and it just kind of trivialized a lot of things when it was raid wide buffs. Okay, well, we can move on to this. This one's a big one. People are complaining about. Basically, like day one TBC boosts, like the ZG coin turn in, where you can just turn in coins to like level 62 or 63, just right at the start. Boom, boom, boom.
I don't think that this is gonna work. I believe this isn't gonna work. People are already talking about how this stopped working sometime in TBC. So I think that on launch, none of these repeatable quests are gonna work. Maybe you'll get like one turn in value of XP, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I think have you guys heard about what some of these really hardcore people are doing about something that people were hinting that they had a way to hit like 61 or 62 in 15 minutes on launch? So what people are doing, and this is just from what I've read. I don't know if this is actually what people are doing, but apparently people are doing quests, deleting the quest turn-in items, and then come TBC or like 30 days before TBC, they can recover them all. They can recover every quest item, get it mailed to them. It sits in the mail for I think 180 days or something, and then people are gonna go turn every quest in like that. They'll be able to do, 20 level 60 quests, right out the gate. Actually, more than 20. They can do like 100 level 60 quests, delete all the quest turn-ins, re-grab the quests, and then recover those items from their mailbox. And they'll sit in the mailbox even when you don't have the quest again. That is something I'm
I
kind of
hadn't even
freaked out
heard about
about.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like 200 quests or something. You can get done
Yeah.
with it.
And then,
But people have leaked it all over the place because I think the people who would actually want to do it don't want to do it
Yeah,
because it
I
would be
think
so
that's
annoying. So they've leaked it and they're like, "Oh, please, Blizzard, nerf this." But I think if they
right.
did that, that's pretty, and it's pretty blatant abuse of the recovery system
yeah.
for unintended reasons, and you'd probably just get banned.
well, and
Yeah,
what
it's
is this
like
Weird.
you posted in chat, Willie?
Oh yeah, so that's something somebody linked me actually, a blue tracker from ages ago, just regarding the actual XP from stuff like coins and so on, where it says repeat turn-ins will be nerfed a little bit, but they think people will do stuff in Outland instead of stockpiling, which couldn't be further from the truth today. People will do the
Yeah.
exact opposite.
Yeah.
So based on that, if I don't know if they work, that's just something somebody sent me, which I found interesting. They found that.
Yeah, and it says
Um,
here that as soon as you abandon a quest, the items will be destroyed. So I
Yeah,
wonder if
that's
that'll destroy them in mailboxes too. I wonder if
it doesn't.
it
People have already
doesn't.
tested this.
Okay.
Right now, you can absolutely do what they're talking about doing. That is something I don't know. I don't even know what I'm concerned about. It's not that hard to level in TBC.
well,
Like
and
yeah.
isn't reputation going to be an issue if you just turn in these repeatable quests, or if you get to 63 with
you'll only get to like 61, I think, is their goal, or 62. They're not going like all the way to 70 like this. They're just getting a head start on people, which I think is important. But I just wonder, like, does the classic community, are we gonna be like, oh, world first Karazhan? Like, hooray, they did Karazhan world first, and it's because they abuse this ridiculous leveling method. I wonder if people just won't care about it. Like, oh, first level 70, like, oh, they abuse some ridiculous method. I remember the
right,
first level 70 in TBC originally was like maybe a French guy who had like 20 people helping him quest all the way through and he hit 70 first. That was cool. But even if they keep this in, I don't even know if I care that much. You hit Karazhan, or you hit you hit Karazhan a day before I did, and I'm just like a normal player just going through dungeons and stuff.
right.
I don't even know if I care that much. I think they should nerf it, but the fact that this is even a thing is it really shows what kind of community we have, or like what kind of gamers exist these days, where people are going hard on this stuff and they're going to abuse whatever they can to get ahead. So I think they should probably fix this stuff. But
Well, the next one I'm afraid to even bring up, but does anybody have any feelings about the WoW token?
yes, I have feelings about the WoW token.
Yeah. I
Nope,
guess.
no feelings at all.
Well, it's I imagine it'll be in for not Burning Crusade, maybe later in Burning Crusade, but potentially Wrath of the Lich King. Yeah, it's sort of fighting a problem which should be solved by banning people buying gold instead of legitimizing the service. But I guess on the other hand, as expansions go on more, then gold starts to matter less and less anyway. And WoW isn't very good when it comes to gold things, just in general. Like the gold sinks are kind of non-existent, really, beyond flying and the occasional repair and respecs, which just aren't much. So I think it will come in eventually, and like the popularity of the boost shows that people are willing to spend out. Yeah, but it looks as though it's pretty popular. People are willing to spend money to essentially skip gameplay, so that'll just add into that. So I imagine it'll be a thing eventually.
Yeah, it almost feels like Blizzard is handling botting and like gold inflation things almost to make the WoW token inevitable. Like it's like
Yeah,
the
tinfoil
way they
hat,
handle
right?
it, they're almost forcing casual players to buy gold. Like it's unbelievable the amount of people who buy gold in this game right
Yeah,
now. I,
I'm dumbfounded by it. It wasn't like that back in the day. Like it was pretty hush hush. Now people openly talk about it, and I mean, if you ban everybody buying gold right now, I think you're banning half of WoW Classic population.
I could be wrong here, and this could just be a feelings thing. But like I mentioned a million times before, old school RuneScape, they have a huge botting problem there as well too. But they are constantly banning real world traders. Anyone who's trading gold for money, I would be so afraid of losing my account if I bought gold in old school RuneScape. But I don't think has anyone been banned for buying gold in Classic WoW like ever.
I've not
Maybe
heard of
like
it.
I've heard of people getting. I've heard of like GDKP leaders getting banned for like transferring 100 gold to an alt or something, 100k gold to an alt or something for 3 days. But
Yeah,
I've never
or
heard of
multi
anyone even.
boxes too.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's just very bizarre that there's almost zero fear for people in Classic WoW. People just do it. It's just crazy to me. You know, you go to these GDKPs, or we have someone in our guild who's come back to sort of just make some gold before TBC, and he's been selling enchants. He's getting like 20 to 50 gold tips. You don't tip
What?
50 gold for an enchant unless you're buying gold. Like I
Well,
don't
and then
understand.
everybody's
crazy.
everybody's paying 300 to 500 gold for head and heart drops too.
See, I'm okay with that, because if you're a guild, you could afford that, right? Like if our guild wanted to pay someone 300 gold for a head drop so we can do Naxx, it's more reasonable. It is weird when like one person is offering to buy it for 400 gold. Um, but I brought up, and I don't know if this is the case. I do have a feeling that TBC inflation isn't going to be as bad as it was in Classic. A lot of early Classic farms were all like created gold. They were grays that you would vendor. Like the Lasher farm was creating a lot of gold and causing massive inflation. Where I think bots are going to be way more focused on things like moats and trade goods and things like that. Whereas players will be the ones creating gold through daily quests as the main way that gold is being put into the game. I don't know how those level out. Maybe inflation will be just as bad. Who knows? Um, I don't want WoW token right away. That would be the worst thing ever if on TBC launch there's a WoW token, because there's so much that's such a special time where you have to decide, like, do I want to craft this item so I do better in raid, or do I want to make a buttload of gold selling these moats or selling these primal fires? And it's going to be fun, but if I can just drop $200 and get my full BOE set going, and I give that money to Blizzard, then I don't know if I like that at all. I don't think so. I think the WoW token's coming eventually, but I hope it's just like late when we just don't care anymore. Like I'm like that with Classic right now, where if there was a WoW token now, I just would not care anymore. But come TBC, I would be pretty upset about it.
It turns TBC initially into like a pay to win game, right?
Right? Yeah. I mean,
You
even if
you
you think
get your
about
best gear.
PvP, like initial arena, if they open up arena like day one, which I assume there might be like a week or two wait before arena opens up, then then people who are buying items are gonna have a crazy advantage.
Yeah, and
Yeah, for sure. TB is so gold intensive at the start. With your a lot of crafting gear is good for pretty much everybody. You want to level your new professions. You want to get your transmute set up. You want to get your flying. But then as the expansion goes on, there's less stuff to spend gold on. It's not like with Classic, whereas the raids have ramped up, we need to ramp up more and more that we're spending. It just sort of it's static, and we just accumulate more gold naturally.
I guess it would be kind of neat to come in halfway through TBC for alt purposes, but then I would want it removed at the start of Wrath for the same reasons we just talked about, you know? Like those initial things, like Wrath, you're gonna have dual spec. That's a 1,000 gold, I think, to unlock that. You have to pay to unlock flying in Northrend. I just don't. I don't know. I don't want the coin in Classic, but if it was there, I'd use it. It's basically
That's
where I'm
another
at.
problem. Yeah, that's another problem is you might increase the population of people who are abusing this kind of pay to win scenario when you introduce the WoW token. Honestly, the fact that they haven't introduced it in Classic, it makes me think that maybe they won't introduce it at all. I used to think they were definitely going to introduce it, but I mean, maybe not. Like they could have made a lot of money if they had introduced it
I was
by
gonna
now in
say,
Classic,
think
and
of
they
how much
didn't.
money they lost by not introducing it in Classic, because the
Yeah.
amount of people buying gold from other people is just money lost by Blizzard. That
Yeah.
if they're not going to crack down on it and make it not a thing that people want to do, then they need to take advantage of it. Like I feel like they can get more devs if they had the
Yeah, see
WoW token.
the argument is they should have just been smarter about banning bots, and that's where you put the tinfoil hat on, thinking maybe they're just doing it to try and force the WoW token conversation. But yeah, I
The
mean,
amount of money they lost trying to force the WoW token conversation, I think, is just idiotic. So
yeah, I think they're finding more ways to uh, monetize Classic with transfers and cloning and 58 boosts. I think if they just crack down on bots harder, like I don't think we need the coin. But like I said, I don't want it. If it's in, I'll use it. That's basically where I'm at. All right, so the next ones we're just kind of like just kind of go through. These are just like things that would be I thought other people sent me ones that thought they'd be kind of cool, like drop classic attunements for old content like Naxx and BWL, allow people to work up and maybe still do those level 60 raids if they want to, or go back and do them on level 70s that they made that were new that never got attuned. What do you guys think of this like quality of life change?
I mean,
Also,
isn't
like
it?
the raid scaling, or
No, just to where you just take away the BWL attune.
So you don't have to
attunement.
do Uber. You don't have to run Ubers one time before going into BWL. Is that?
Yeah, and you don't have
I mean,
to you don't have to pay anything to get the Naxx attunement. Like it's not going to be much to do at that point, but would that be
I
something
think
you welcome?
I would welcome if they want to drop the rep requirement for the Naxx attunement. I don't see any point in dropping like the two arcane crystals you got to hand in to get attuned. But if they want to drop like the rep requirement for like the new shamans and stuff when pre-patch hits, I don't have a problem with that because I would like to raid with some of these people who are coming in to TBC with new shamans and paladins. I think it'd be fun. That's the only reason I would say for that. I mean, I think doing one Ubers not that hard. Turning in a couple crystals or paying some gold. I mean, I don't think they should get rid of it. I mean, it just sort of seems like kind of whatever at that point. But the rep requirement would be pretty annoying for anyone making a new character in pre-patch or something.
yeah, I agree with that.
Well,
yeah, I don't think the classic attunements aren't really too high of a barrier to entry. Like Molten Core, you can solo it on any level 60.
Yep, just a
Um,
couple invisibility pots.
yeah, Blackwing Lair, you just one dungeon run. AQ, you walk in, and next you
And
pay for the
it's
privilege of going into some hellish dungeon prison thing.
it's a dungeon that you could fairly easily, like Ubers, you could fairly easily do with 5 people now, and like only 3 of them need to be geared. Like might be a little bit
Yeah.
slower, but I mean you could tear through that dungeon fast. So I don't know. I just picked it out. I'm really on the fence. I don't care about that one, whichever way it goes. What about Itemrack? The functionality of the Itemrack add-on in game instead of having to have an add-on for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that came out with Wrath. I suppose in the same vein as Dual Spec, just to make it a bit more convenient. I don't know, Itemrack's pretty good, to be honest.
It
I've
is.
heard about it bugging out sometimes, but usually it works fine enough for me.
Yeah, the only problem I have with Itemrack is it never seems to change my weapons out when I do it in
Yeah,
combat.
it doesn't change anything in combat, I think, even weapons,
Yeah, I have
when
to
I
make
use it
macros
also.
for
So,
weapons.
which is I mean, it's fine for the way I play it. It doesn't really matter too much. But yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. I think that some people sometimes have pushback when a game wants to like eat up the add-ons that exist for it and put it in the game. But I mean, add-ons are invented to make up for shortcomings of a game. If a game wants to include those in, I don't think that that is a problem at all. Like if there currently was a weak aura or an add-on that would do what dual spec does, like save your bars and stuff like that, it'd be crazy not for not to add it to the actual game. Like
Right.
if players can already do it, then it should just be added to the game, and that's sort of how I feel. You shouldn't have to go search out for third-party things in order to make up for shortcomings of a game.
This next one's kind of spicy. How about a timed, like maybe 10 to 24-hour ceasefire period while the gates open for PvP servers? Basically turning a PvP server to a PvE server for a short time to ease the passage of Azeroth into Outland.
I don't know. I think most people who are going to want to try and go hard are going to be in dungeons, regardless of that being a thing. Because the optimal way to play isn't to quest; it's to do dungeons. Because you only get rep in dungeons up to honored or something, whereas the rep from quest goes beyond that. So they'll want to do that anyway. As for everyone else, I reckon they're going to have about 1,000,000 layers anyway. So I don't know. I think it'd
Yeah.
be a bit too big of a thing. It shouldn't last forever, regardless of everyone sort of being bunched up, and hopefully layering would already solve that problem.
I think they have to
But
be more extreme on the early layering, and then sort of taper it off, even on like a day basis, because we don't want a million layers or people who are 70 and like farming elemental plateau before other people. But there needs to be adequate layering, which there wasn't on the launch of Classic. Like, if you recall, there would be like insane lines to complete quests. People were like waiting their turn to do things.
Yeah, that
I've
was
got I've
funny.
got
Yeah,
yeah, I've got screenshots from when I first logged in right as the server opened. That was way too many people to be
It was absurd.
questing in Outland. Like it's way too many people on a single layer. So maybe if they had way more extreme layering to begin with, and then just like even hour by hour, yeah, let's take one layer away. Okay, let's take another layer away. I just hope they're actively monitoring the situation. I don't want huge queues, and I don't want a trillion people there. I think it's going to be a real, I don't know. I wish I wasn't dungeoning because I sort of want to see the mayhem that happens
right.
when it happens. But I think dungeoning is just the way to do things. Leveling is cool in TBC, but you'll be able to go through the normal leveling experience with an alt. I think TBC is super good for alts. It's alt friendly overall. So I think it will be you can get the normal leveling experience on an alt going through the whole process, and
yeah. I
it's
mean,
going to be amazing.
even I'm on PVE, and I'm going to be doing dungeons because, well, I just think there's going to be too much competition in the open world.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll see that on an alt, which I will definitely be leveling. So
Yep,
I
dungeons
feel
not too
like
up
you
concerned.
till level 70. Go back, do
yeah.
all the quests, get the extra gold. That'll get your mount faster. All the rep will pile on top of honored. Then, I mean, it's just a way better process. But sorry, Mel, you had something to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, we're on a PvP server for a reason, whether we like it or not. And I think you will see some inevitable, like, just where it's like ceasefire, just an understanding between people. We saw it when
Which is
people were
cooler.
trying to get people are focused at that point. Horde and Alliance. Yes, there's going to be some, ganking here and there, but for the most part, that Horde that's level 61 is also just trying to level. And unless you get in their way and provoke them, they're probably going to leave you alone. And the same on the Alliance side. And I think that's more of what a PvP server is, right? You've got that opportunity. They could come kill you, but we're both doing a thing. Not right now, you know?
Yeah, when I initially heard this idea, I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was great. But after thinking about it more, I'm like, no, this isn't a single player game. If you're getting ganked, it's an MMO. Group up, like play
All your
with
friends.
friends or make friends. It's a community. The only people I feel really bad for would be people that are on a server where they're like the 25% alliance to the 75% horde, or vice versa. I do feel bad for the servers that don't have like a pretty like equal population. I feel bad for them, but at the same time, it's a PvP server. You could always transfer to a PvE. I'm totally not down with this change now after thinking about it for a while.
I think I could be more open to it if like Zanger Marsh was the first zone, but Hellfire Peninsula has different quests for Alliance and Horde to begin with. You're not doing like neutral quests that you're
Some
sharing quest
overlap.
mobs from.
Some
There is
overlap,
some
yeah.
overlap, but there you're in different places. But if the first town was like everyone is in the same town, Horde and Alliance, you're all doing the same quests, that would be people will kill each other over quest mobs, where I think people will stagger out a little bit better because of Hellfire Peninsula. I mean, it's just going to be mayhem no matter what, though.
That's
And if
gonna
you're playing hour 1 of TBC launch and then you decide you're questing and not dungeoning, you should just go into it expecting just for the ride. Like it's just it's going to be crazy.
That's
I
going to
don't
be
know.
another weird thing to go back to, thinking about TBC. I mean, we're all going to be in the same main city the majority of the time, Horde and Alliance, and that was always kind of weird, and then you fly out. Sometimes people would follow to kill you because they saw you in town and they didn't like you. Like I've kind of forgotten about how that feels to be right next to a dirty torrent,
I hope this is like maybe this is silly. Like I don't want to be too like silly. I think that they probably need to work on what is allowed to be said between factions come Shatra, because you can say some pretty awful things that will get by filters, will get by anything by using like the translation between Alliance to Horde and Horde to Alliance. So what I don't want to see is like going into Shatra and seeing like a bunch of gamer words being yelled at me, and like maybe they don't get like I don't think people ever get action taken against them because like the words they said, they didn't type the words that got said, right? It's like a little weird.
Well,
I would like them to crack down on
Yeah.
things like that, 'cause you
I
can say some pretty horrible stuff.
I tried to report a horde the other day. I couldn't right click his name and say report, but he said hail you know who in horde speak, and I was just like, I
Same.
tried to report him and I couldn't do it easily. I'm sure maybe I could like screenshot it and like open up a menu and report somewhere, but
Yeah, I just like it, I just don't want it to like we are in a modern era of toxicity in game communities. I just don't want it to end up being like super toxic in Shatra, which it feels like if you just put all of Whitemane into one city right now, it'd probably be a little toxic. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, people really go out the way to
Yeah.
cause drama. I'll tell you what will be bad on PvP servers: that Caverns of Time escort quest at the start,
Oh no.
which is like 8 minutes
I'm
long, and
dreading
there's some
it.
guards who like sort of, they're not like the mega Rambo lights hope knock you back across the map guards. I think they just run up and melee you. So
And
they could probably
it's
increase the power of the guards there.
maybe
Yeah.
because that's one of the things you have to complete for the Karazhan attunement, and there's not like
Yeah.
multiple of them there. If there's Horde doing it right there, you have to wait. I mean, that's going to be a huge bottleneck. That's going to be a problem.
Wouldn't surprise me if the same thing that happened to AQ happened, where you have Alliance dominated layers and you have Horde dominated layers, and
Could
you're just
happen.
trying to layer hop to the one that
Yeah.
can be.
I mean, I think that's what will happen on PvP servers for leveling in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on how, because the layering tech they've said that, the more you layer hop, the longer the cooldown's going to be in between it, up to like, if you're using it really often, it could be like an hour before
Yeah.
you can layer hop. You could just be stuck on a layer with 24 horde groups, and you're like the Soul Alliance guy, and you're like, please let me leave.
Help.
I've been there
That could be
before.
like-
So.
Okay, so what do you think about decreasing what am I trying to say? Decreasing transmutes by 1 hour. So if it's a 4-day transmute, it's 3 days, 23 hours. So if you wanted to, you could do it at the same time of day, each time it's up. Or an alternative is you have them just be actually reset on the day, kind of like daily quests are. Like when the server resets, I used to do my dailies. I'd do them way late at night, right before it reset, and then do them all over again and do 2 in a row. Do you guys think like transmute should be kind of changed like that? Because right now it's always an hour later than you did it, the time before, or close to it.
I don't keep track of my transmutes that consistently. I'm really bad about remembering when my cooldowns are up, so it probably wouldn't affect me.
But I think a part of that has to do with this, though, because you can't just say, I do my transmutes at 8 p.m. every day. You just slowly get pushed back. Then
Right.
all of a sudden, it's like harder to be more consistent. That's fine. I mean, I'm fine with like transmutes resetting on server reset and then at any time of day. So if you have a 24-hour one, you can just do it once per server reset, and you can decide when you want to do it. I don't know. I don't really mind either way. I kind of like that people forget or are late on transmutes. I think that lowers the amount of items in the game, which I'm okay with. I don't I don't like that people are going to have like 10 transmute alts and that they're just like using all the time.
Yeah.
So I think keeping it a little bit harder for those people are fine. And keep in mind, I'm one of those people. I have a bunch of alchemists who are Arcanite, and I mess up. I mess up a lot. I miss days. Like
Me
I
too.
can't do it
Yeah.
consistently. I think it's a good thing. I don't deserve all that money if I miss days.
Yeah. And then you make it so it's like a schedule thing where you have to be on to do your trans. No, I don't need any of that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really mind it being a, reset on the day instead of it being a forced 24 hours, whatever it may be, but it's not the end of the world. And I'm someone who's got, a lot of level 60s, and I may have tailoring and alchemy on literally all of them. And I'm
You are
going to
ready.
be. The plan is to get summoned around everywhere, put the summoning alts to use.
I think
Yeah.
with changes like this,
Yeah.
people don't know what's in TBC. Like we went through that whole list that one episode of all the changes in TBC. We didn't know that summoning stones happened at the pre-patch of TBC. None of us who were there at the time knew that that's when it came out in the pre-patch. So I think a lot of these minor changes, like if you told me that TBC introduced 23-hour timers instead of 24, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I guess maybe it did. Like I just don't know. I think
it
most
was
of the
Wrath.
population. Yeah, most of the population, though, is what I'm saying. Like, they don't, all these like little quality of life things, I think they're mostly okay with. TBC introduced so many quality of life changes that people don't even know what they all are. So I don't think anyone would get upset about these like little things like that they added later being put back into TBC like this. Like, because it's just like TBC to me is nothing to do with like timers and and summoning and things like that. So it's not a huge deal.
Do you got anything else to add, Willie?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the end of the world either way. I think the bigger concern is that to what degree people will take advantage of them rather than when they're resetting to make gold.
Yeah. Well, what about just improving the combat log? Like, for instance, allowing you to see misses as opposed to resists instead of everything saying miss. Like maybe just beef up the
Yeah, like
combat
more
log so that you can understand what happened in a fight better.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like required. I think that most people are playing, like average players are now playing at what like high level players were playing like in TBC probably, right? Like we all have so much more information and data available to us. Just having more of it is better. Like I think it's outside of the game. That sort of information of whether a resist happened because the boss's resist or if you just missed your spell, it's just like there's no reason to hide information like that from you. Like we're trying to like if you're trying to analyze logs, give me everything. Who cares? Like I'm just trying to see what happened.
Yeah, I mean, if people are against that, Blizzard literally gave us the API for threat,
Yep.
which would have been like the holy grail back in vanilla, and
Yep.
that like passed over completely unnoticed. So yeah, why not?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. That's like such a huge factor. And that was the thing. Everyone was like, "Oh, man, Classic's crazy because of threat. Like that's going to be the one thing no one's used to." And you have such a major change where we just know exactly where threat levels are and
Yeah.
it's whatever. No one no
Yeah,
one-
they pretty much said, "Well, you've pretty much got it right, so here's the rest." And
Yeah.
yeah, and then we found out stuff like that. Ectoplasmic Distiller is a a nice AOE taunt based off
yeah,
of
that
that.
was
Until that got nerfed, didn't last long.
Yeah, that lasted about a day, but it was pretty cool while it lasted. All right, well, does
That was
anybody...
that was the
Yeah, it was in vanilla for the entire time, too. It never got fixed, supposedly.
Yeah, too few people knew about it.
Yep.
You know
Right.
what else has been in Classic the entire time and never been fixed? Heroic Strike canceling.
It'll be in BC and Wrath.
Oh, man. It didn't... I mean, it doesn't really matter. If you have world buffs and the gear we're at now, you don't have to Heroic Strike cancel at all. But if you die, you do get a bunch of increase in damage by Heroic Strike canceling. Because...
Are you talking about Warriors and TBC?
No,
Look at
no,
your face.
I'm talking about Warriors now.
Oh,
Yeah, it should
okay.
be all the way up to Cataclysm because it's a next melee, and Cat was
Yeah.
made instant.
I just
so-
meant who cares about Warriors and TBC?
Oh right.
Like, oh, Warriors still gonna be able to heroic. Who cares? Get them
Well
out of here.
said. Well said. All right. Well, before we end that, I'll give anybody an opportunity just to give maybe an idea of a change that they want to see.
I've got one actually we could talk about that Blizzard have alluded to updating the TBC Group Finder to match the retail one.
Oh yes, you're not talking about you're not talking about like Group Finder where it warps you to the dungeon. You're talking about the actual UI that you use to use Group Finder, where you're still putting your own group together, and then still going to the dungeon.
Yeah.
But it's just a better UI, right?
Yeah, so the not LFG or I
Yeah.
suppose it's called LFD, which was in Wrath, that was the one where you queue up, it finds a group and it teleports you. This would be the I think it's LFM. There's so many different names for it.
I know.
Where they tried to do this in TBC, and the comparison I make to it is the raid frames that we have in Classic now, often Cataclysm. I haven't heard a single person say, "Damn man, I wish we had those scuffed raid frames. We have to add each individual group from vanilla back."
Oh, dude, I don't even think people remember how bad those were.
Yeah, but there'll be add-ons for that anyway. It's kind of a bit different.
Yeah.
In fact, remember back at the start of not vanilla, Classic, someone tried to make a group finder add-on, and everyone flipped out, and then Blizzard broke it. Yeah, but I don't think it'd be the worst thing if it's just a better UI, which is aiming to do what they were trying to do in TBC.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that group
whatever you
finder thing was funny. I remember that happened, and I remember being outraged about it. I remember being like, "Get rid of it."
Yeah, I was like, "There's no way this gets in. No way."
Yeah,
Yeah, I
pretty
mean,
crazy. I mean,
with the hashtag no changes, we kind of turned in as a community, at least I fell into the trap of us being just a hive mind and just echoing what the loudest people said, like, and then not really thinking it through until we got in the game and we're like, oh, yeah, didn't think about this.
I just think so. The back to like the main change, having the retail looking for group tool. It's a really cool tool in retail. It's very simple how it works. I think that there is a great need for it in Classic because I don't think that. I think that it's cool that you have to find a group on your own server. I think it's cool you have to like venture to there and you'll start summoning people at the summoning stone in TBC. I don't think anyone is stoked that you have to spam trade to find a group. Like that's not like that's not part of it. Like I don't trade chat is filled with people who are like boosting stocks and stuff like that. Where if you just list a group, it's just so much easier. Like there's no, it's
Yeah.
just so nice. You can say, "Hey, I'm doing this quest. I'm doing this quest." Especially if there's going to be a lot of layers, it's going to be you won't just be able to like see someone else doing the quest. and invite them. So it's better to have this sort of listing system to say, we're both trying to do this elite quest. Let's group up and do it. And
Yeah, I
then,
mean,
yeah,
yes, that's part of the reason why they brought it in, because people were spamming for the group stuff in literally every available chat channel, because
yeah,
why wouldn't you? So they wanted
Right.
stuff like, looking for strats, whatever, a tank or something. They wanted that to be in the tool rather than that in trade chat, even though people still just use trade chat and stuff. But, there you go. And they probably still will. But what can you do?
Yeah, and looking for group is going to be in TBC regardless, that tool. Why not have a better UI with it that's more intuitive for everybody? Why not? Mel, do you have anything to add on that?
No, I mean, I think that's fine. I think the only complaint that people tend to have for things like that is that it reduces the community aspect of it. It reduces the time that you have to, I don't know, spend finding people, developing relationships, having guildies, like it takes away some of that. But I don't think this tool takes that away enough to make it a bad thing.
Yeah, as long as you're on the same server, I mean, you're still going to build rep. You're still going to get called out. Your GM's going to get bothered if you ninja something in a group. I mean, that's all still going to happen. Where with LFG jumping to different servers with random people, you didn't even type to, hey, this is reserved or anything. Like that's the problem.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
and yeah, on retail as well, it is notoriously very often used for advertising real money services.
yeah,
Mm.
that would be, I think
A
that
lot.
would be a problem here too. It's going to be get your 1850 arena rating, and it's groups for that. Get
Yeah.
carried, get carried through every heroic for the day. People are going to be advertising that. So like that's a problem. But I mean, I'd rather them do it there. I mean, they'll probably do it in both, but I'd rather keep all the real money stuff, or paying for gold to get every heroic done. Keep it in LFG, and it's not spammed in trade. I think that's. I mean, it's going to happen either way. I'd rather just keep it hidden
Can we have
to
like a
another
spam folder?
platform.
It goes into a spam
Exactly, because
folder
like
in the
it's just,
LFG.
yeah, like it does bring me down. Like I think it's a bummer that people will like boost arena groups or whatever, but it's not like we didn't do it in TBC. Like people were boosting
Yeah.
arena groups. I just think I don't want to see it become so common that like trade chat is spammed with it. I'm gonna think that everyone is doing it, no one's even playing, and it
Well,
kind of just bogs you down. It's depressing to see.
boosting in arena is going to be. I mean, you're not going to be able to just get boosted as a complete potato like in twos and threes. Maybe in fives, you could 4 people or 3 people maybe could boost one or two others, but you're not really going to have like you're not going to be able to be a potato and get into the up into the 2Ks that easy. You're going to have to be with someone amazing. So
Am I crazy, or can't you? I'm pretty sure you in TBC you could. You only had to play 3 out of 10
oh
of the game.
yes, you
So you
had
would
only
you
wait. I'm trying to think of when that was in. Yeah, I'm not sure on
It was
that
a
now that you
TBC.
say it.
Yeah, TBC was 3 of 10. So you'd have 3 people on your 2's arena team. You'd do the arena with 3 arenas with the bad players, and then you do 7 arenas with just the good players. And I think that counted toward the bad players' arena score, because it was
Uh,
team score, not personal arena score.
See, now
So
if
you
that's the
definitely could
case,
do boosts.
then yeah, if that's the case, you only have to play 3 matches.
I think
Or
that's another reason they want in like an MMR system as well too, where it's just like they do probably want to clean up how the arena system works.
gotcha. Well, anything else anybody want to talk about before we close it out?
I mean, do you guys think that team score is still a good idea? Or do you think it should be individual score and you can only group up with people that are within so close to your individual score?
The Overwatch problem.
I'm just saying, like, is there really a reason that I should be going into a twos arena with somebody who's rated 1,000 points higher than me? Like, what would the reason for that be? It's just to carry me.
Just to be able to have different teams. I don't know. That might be a little too much for me.
That's a serious question, because like I think there is in an objective game, when we're not talking about classic, in an objective game, I think it's better to have a personal rating, right? Like you don't have a team score in competitive games.
Right.
So I think that alone is kind of a bizarre thing to happen. So you should have like your a real personal rating.
See, and
But
well,
when you're
I've
talking
been
about,
asking for team ratings in Overwatch for the last 4 years.
well,
Kind of
okay,
similar to like StarCraft.
yeah, Overwatch is a little different because it's like a little more MOBA-esque, but I think with like Arena, when you're talking about like a 2v2 team, it is like a little way more personal about like what's going on there. I think personal rating is fine, but when we're talking, I think if they're trying to recreate the classic experience. In my classic experience, I was boosting teams. Like I would boost my friends' teams all the time. So if we're talking about a TBC experience, I think changing it that drastically is going to be too far removed, I guess, maybe in my opinion, from what we were doing before. But I don't, it is kind of weird. I do worry, like people are crazy these days. They'll min max
Yeah.
crazy stuff that I can't think about. Like I can't think all the way through. I just need to see what happens. I need to see what people are theory crafting of how they're gonna break the game and then fix it. I think that's the best way to handle things.
Guys, did you
Yeah,
have
I mean,
anything to add?
I think there's inevitably
Yeah.
going to be issues.
Yeah, big money market for boosts for sure.
Okay.
All right, well, I think that's going to end it out for today, guys. Do we have an add-on of the week?
Yeah, Mel did.
Oh, all right. Well, let's move into the add-on of the week.
What was my add-on of the week?
Something about TSM. You got cut off last week.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so this is not a new add-on, but a new feature that I found. So on the TSM add-on, I can open up my profession, say alchemy or tailoring, and TSM will scan the auction house when I open it up. And so the add-on part of it on alchemy will show me all of the things that I can make in alchemy. And then based on the cost of the items on the auction house right now, and based on the cost of that item, will show me what profit margin I can make, right? So I can look at, oh, I can make shadow elixir and it'll cost me 2 gold, but I'll make a 5 gold profit on each one I make by buying the mats. And so it's just a way to play the auction house to really increase your margins. Like you can literally just buy things and don't do a ton because if you saturate the market, you're just going to end up with a bunch of shadow elixirs that nobody wants anymore. But it's a way to kind of identify if there's an easier way for you to make money on certain things.
And TSM is awesome because you'll be scanning the auction house. You'll know what the average price of an item is too. So if you're just going in there without looking, you might say, "Oh wow, this makes money right now," but maybe someone bought out the potions and it's not the right price. So that's
Right.
important. Getting into this now is important too. If you want a jewel crafter, I used to use Insano spreadsheets back. Well, not really Insano, just regular spreadsheets for prospecting, where you'd want to say, okay, it's this chance for this gem. What's this gem cost? What's the, it's this chance for this gem. What is the ore cost? And then figuring out, is it worth buying all this ore and prospecting it all into gems? And that is a way that people can make money in many, many expansions. People are using that. So get TSM or an add-on that does something similar. There's no reason for you to like calculate this stuff on your own anymore. These add-ons will just
Right.
tell you can make money. Hit this button, make money, do it.
Right. Yeah. I just look at my little thing and anything green, I'm like, I can make money right now.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I've made a
Didn't know
small.
about that.
Yeah, well, she showed it to me a few weeks ago, and I was scrolling through mine, and I scrolled past the ice bane, the 3 pieces that you create in Nax for the frost res, and it said 500 gold profit, 400 gold profit, 300 gold profit. I went and looked at them, and it was like, I'll give it a shot. So I made one of each. They all sold for that profit. I was just like, wow. I just made
easy money.
1,000 gold right there. It was
Yeah.
sweet.
I will say, just in general for money making, like I brought up that enchanting thing earlier, there's money to be made right now, and people can come up with new ways. There's a good portion of raiders who are buying gold, so the value of gold in their mind is a lot different. And then you just take advantage of that. Like an alt trying to get into Nax with frost res gear, they're gonna pay that charge. They're not gonna go find someone to make it because they're lazy, and they're just thinking, "Oh, I'll just buy some more gold." So
Yeah.
like they're willing to pay these exuberant prices to save a small amount of time because they have the gold, and it's almost meaningless in their mind You know, you don't like if you're typing 50 gold for an enchant, that gold does not have the same value to you as it should, because to make that gold in game, there's still a long time requirement. So
Right.
Yep.
One
make
thing I
some
will say
gold.
about TSM that I wish it would do is I wish it would tell you the average price of an item sold instead of posted. Because somebody can post an item for like 1,000%. They can post it for like 3 weeks in a row, and then all of a sudden that shows as 100%. Like
Right.
that's
I
the
see what you're
right
saying.
rate. I wish it was how many items have sold at this
Yeah.
price.
I don't know if TSM does it. I use a website called Booty Bay Gazette, which you need a subscription for. And they talk about median prices a lot, which is a little bit better. And they have mean and median prices across multiple servers. And I think that's a big thing as well too. Because you might find like, oh wow, this item sells for 50 gold on my server, but then you look at other servers and it sells for like 1 copper, and it's like this is probably not worth no one's buying it at 50 gold if no other server has any value tied to this item.
Right.
So it's good for that.
All right, well, that's going to end it out. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at WC Reloaded. You can follow the Mash Those Buttons Network at the Mash Network. If you want to email us or tell us any stories, anything, the email address is wcrpodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to join our Mash Those Buttons Discord and interact with the hosts or any hosts of any of our shows, that can be found at mash.gg/Discord. Well, we still need your ratings and reviews. They help us get seen on Google, and it helps quite a bit. So please keep those coming. Thank you so much for anybody that takes the time to do that. Don't forget about our YouTube challenge. Go to each of our episodes. You go to last week's, which was episode 33, or this week's, which is episode 34. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, and you get one entry in for the $25 Blizzard Cash gift card giveaway. So help us out there. Help us get seen on YouTube and grow that audience as well as our awesome podcast audience. So thank you all so much. Ryan, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Cognitive Pit, or come join me on YouTube at youtube.com/Cognitive Pit. I've got 2 series going. One, I'm leveling a paladin from 1 to 60, grinding and making a ton of gold the whole way. I just put up a video from 28 to 29. I made 60 gold in that one level, which is I think pretty good. So even if you're just doing it for one level, you can almost afford your mount just from grinding one level. So come check that out. And then the other series is 1,000 loot from 1,000. I don't know. I'm killing 1,000 of stuff and looking at how much money I make.
Nice.
So it's come live vicariously through me. Enjoy my pain. You can hear my voice. It's kind of funny. If you listen to it, I'm like, let's grind 1,000. At the end, I'm like, yeah, I didn't get what I wanted. So
All right, Mel, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at MelOverwatch.
All right,
That's it.
and Willie, thank you so much for coming on. Where can we find you? Anything you want to talk about, just do it now.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, as always. Just YouTube name's Willie there as well. Doing a series on all the classes and TBC at the moment, which is kind of killing me because it's so many 20-minute videos. But yeah, I'm working through those at the moment, and next one will be on Tuesday. That'll be the Mage.
Awesome.
it's a great
Interesting
series.
one. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, working my way through that.
And that's Willie without an I, WILLE. So just letting everybody know.
Thanks.
All right, guys. And if you need to find me, you can find me on Twitter at Blazin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. I sporadically stream our raids and sometimes other stuff. So if you want to check that out, I always tweet out when I upstream on twitch.tv/BlazinBob. So if you're down to watch someone or come in and say hi and hang out every once in a while, you can follow me there. All right. We're going to get out of here, guys. We will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Awkward pause where I stopped the stream.